All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to ETHSF. Woo! My name is Kung Peng, and I'm the founder of Stanford Blockchain Accelerator Program. So help a lot of Stanford founders, which you're going to hear some of them, like Nexus and Caldera and Holiday, Zero Gravity, Modules Labs, BitVM, among others, to go from 0 to 1. And they raise aggregate more than 500 mil from some of the best VCs, and then have a lot of impact in the broader blockchain ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem as well. And also, I'm a founding partner of the Blockchain Builders Fund. So we invest mainly in the early stage, pre-seed, and seed founders from the Stanford blockchain ecosystem and the broader blockchain ecosystem as well. I also started a conference series called BAS, Blockchain Application Stanford Summit, about a year and a half ago, inspired by Stanford Blockchain Conference started by Dan Bonnet. The idea is more engineering and product driven. Some of the best founders and thought leaders in the blockchain space, and partner them up with some of the upcoming founder from Stanford, but also from the entire blockchain ecosystem and Ethereum ecosystem, having them together so that they can share some of the latest trends in the industry. Also, I teach a course, a Web3 entrepreneurship course in Stanford University, where some of you guys will listen and hear tomorrow will be Vitalik and Dan Bonnet. That being said, I'm also working with QZ to start the ETHSF. And it's quite exciting and beyond our expectations since it's the first time we're doing it. But seems like it's pretty good. And I've been to some of the events before. Seems to be a lot of people, a lot of excitement, which is great since we're first time doing it. And it's going to be an exciting week. We're just getting started. Today's Monday of awesome events. And some of the events I really want to highlight to make sure you guys are able to stop by. You have time. Obviously, today is the opening ceremony. And tomorrow we're going to have a community day where Stan Bonnet is going to have a lecture with Vitalik, some of the two topmost pioneers and thought leaders in the blockchain industry, to talk about the latest trends and the future of blockchain. And then Wednesday, we're going to have in Stanford Blockchain AI Summit, hosted by Dan Bonnet, with some of the most pioneering thought leaders in the AI space, but also in this blockchain space, to share the latest trends and what they think about the potential fusion of the two technologies. And then on Thursday, we have a DAC day hosted by Vitalik in Berkeley University, discussing some of the latest trends and his philosophy, evangelize his perspective towards the future of technology and the DAC. And then on Sunday, we have the closing ceremony. And also throughout the week, we're going to have a hackathon. We're going to dive into more details with Denver from Devfolio later on. And also, I would like to take the time to be grateful to all the partners and sponsors, without which the entire week of events would not be possible. So actually, I'm going to take out my phone to read the names, since it's a long list of people who help us. So Blockchain Builders Fund, Ethereum Ecosystem Fund, and Devfolio are the creator of the whole exciting movement of ETHSF. And also, we'll be thankful to the hackathon and venue sponsors, Reactive Network, Base, Coinbase developer platform, Zeta Chain, Celo, Self Protocol, Edge AI. And also want to be thankful to the event sponsors, Nethermind, AllLayer, EigenLayer, MetaMask, Sahara AI, Nexus, and Caldera. And also media partner NYC Wired, and the academic partners of the Blockchain Center, Stanford Center for Blockchain Research, and the Berkeley Center for Responsible Decentralized Intelligence, RDI. And then lastly, we have the community partners, Stanford Blockchain Accelerator, Stanford Blockchain Club, Berkeley Blockchain Club, SF Ethereum developers, and EduDAO. So we want to say thank you to all the partners to make it possible. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass on the mic to QZ.
Hi, everyone. This is actually my first day in SF. The weather is amazing, actually. Thanks so much for coming down for Ethereum SF. I think when we conceptualize how Ethereum SF will come together, very much it was for the people in SF, the locals. And it's been an absolutely incredible time seeing how everyone has come together to host events. there is like 50 plus events. I think we might hit 60 by today if we don't do something about it. I'm just kidding. So for Ethereum SF, the concept behind it is very much like Dev Connect. So rather than hosting like a large scale kind of like a conference, I think it's important for us to go back to our roots where Ethereum is really extremely local. So localizing Ethereum events is really our goal for Ethereum SF. And so thank you to every single sponsor, but also event organizers that have come up and independently organized events throughout this entire week. So I do hope you really enjoy yourself. And there's one more thing. Uh, so we've actually partnered or worked together with Fileverse. If you were at DEF CON, you might have actually used it. They built the DEF CON Collab portal. So Ethereum SF's events, the core ones that we organize, are now decentralized and on-chain on Ethereum. So as you come by the events and take some interesting notes, or you want to look at the agenda, or you want to participate, feel free to use the portal. So there's a QR code for you to scan, come on board to see everything there. The main events are on it, the schedule is on it. We're doing our best to see how we can be as like DEF CON as possible. So one more thing, this thing is built on Ethereum, powered by Ethereum, driven on Ethereum, whatever it is. I hope you use it. And there's no reason to tell anybody that this is built on Ethereum. Just enjoy yourself, and I hope you have an amazing time. Thank you.
All right. So my name is Denver. It's actually my organic, grass-fed real name. It's quite funny when last week I was in Denver and I was giving out, I met Denver POAPs. So I mean that's an example of like tech that Ethereum, how Ethereum can really bring people together. And I think it's finally time where we can really go out and make Ethereum relevant to people down the street, right? So I think that's the movement that we want to accelerate. And that's why when QZ and Kung pitched me on like doing a whole ETHSF week, it was back in December, but like I think back then I was very skeptical. But well, here we are, and we have like a whole week of events lined up, and can't be more excited to see everything that, like, how we all push the ecosystem ahead, what builders build. We are also hosting a hackathon on the side. So I'll talk more about that when we get to it. But till then, I'll let folks get on with what we have ready for here today. Right. All right. So we're going to start off with showcasing some of our Ethereum ecosystem projects. And we're going to start off with one of the OGs, Yaniv from Geo and the lead at Graph Protocols here.
Hey, excited to be kicking off ETHSF here. We're really happy to be welcoming you all to our home at House of Web3 in beautiful San Francisco. These ETH hackathons and builder weeks have always been, a big part of our story at the Graph. I founded the Graph in 2017, and at these kind of hackathons, we're like a really big inflection point early on at an ETH Berlin event when we first got people to like successfully build on subgraphs. And so, these are really great opportunities, and you really never know when your like next inflection point is going to come. Do we have the slides? Do we know on these? So the main message that I want to leave with you today is that the mission of Web3 is alive and well, and it's worth pursuing. Right? When you ask different people, people have different ideas of like what Web3 is supposed to be. There we go. And I think Web3 is a new platform for decentralized applications, right? A new web that's open, verifiable, and composable. And I don't think that we see that yet today, right? We do have composability when it comes to things like DeFi, right? And on Ethereum, you have tokens and smart contracts, and you see composability happening there with money on chain. But when it comes to, other applications that are using like information and stuff, you don't actually see this real composability across apps yet. And so, for that, we really need the right primitives. So recently we announced a new standard for knowledge graphs called GRC20. And it allows you to define composable knowledge graphs, which we think are going to be a really core primitive for enabling composition across applications and bringing verifiability and openness to how we coordinate. For me, composability with applications, it's a little bit like mobility. Right? It's hard to explain to someone before you had cell phones and you had cellular networks and all of that, like the value of mobility, right? You kind of have to imagine this world where you can go anywhere and you can talk to anyone and it's just seamless and it just works, right? So composability with information is the same kind of thing, right? We're used to living in these silos and it's hard to imagine a world where everything just interconnects and is just super seamless and you can, take things with you from place to place and you have access to all the world's public knowledge and information at your fingertips and can use it and work together on shared goals as communities. So, that to me is a vision of Web3. And I think we're really close and I'm really excited to get there. Today we're here at House of Web3 in San Francisco. This is a co-creation and event space. It's by a partnership between Geo and EigenLayer. And if you're interested in the back, we'd love to host your next events here. Yeah, hope that this week is really great and fruitful for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Matt from Caldera.
That's not me. I think Daniel was it's up to you. Next.
All right.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Is that the slide? I think we have some other slide. Can I have the clicker? That was the slide. All right, hello everybody. I'm Daniel, founder and CEO of Nexus, and we're very happy to co-sponsor ETHSF. Yeah, welcome everybody. So I just want to spend 1 minute talk about verifiable computation and just how critical it is for the future of the Ethereum roadmap. We at Nexus, we're some type of scientific lab. We produce zero knowledge verifiable machines, so-called CKVMs. And we have published many of these machines over the last 12 months. We published CKVM 0, CKVM 1, CKVM 2. As of last week, we published CKVM 3. And CKVM 3, the model that we just published, is about 1,000 times faster than CKVM 2, which was about 100 times faster than CKVM 1, which was about 10 times faster than CKVM 0, which was presented at Stanford in about 12 months ago. So our team is based here in SF. We're by the Exploratorium. We're a team of mathematicians, cryptographers, etc. And we believe that the technology of general purpose verifiable computation is what can unlock, 10,000 to 1,000,000 X to whatever you want scaling proposition for Ethereum. Essentially horizontal scaling. So at Nexus, we focus on two directions. One is vertical scalability, getting the CKVM models faster and faster and faster with more and more and better mathematics and acceleration with GPUs and FPGAs. So you can think of it like some type of NVIDIA chip that just gets faster and faster and faster. But secondly, horizontally with more and more compute. And so we were just making some numbers today, which were quite interesting. And we foresee CKVMs such as Nexus getting as fast as 1 gigahertz in an M2 MacBook Pro within the next 12 months. To put that into perspective, this would allow us to prove 1 Ethereum block per second per laptop, per MacBook. This is insane. We're seeing the starts of a new type of Moore's law, but of verifiable computation. And it's coming faster than what we think. You know, this is the magic of exponential effects. So my message today to all of you is, you know, what will happen when verifiable computation in CK gets so fast that we're able to prove 1 block per second in every person's computers here. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, now we have Matt.
Here you go. Great. It's hard to beat a little spinning cube. We don't have that. We do have a nice new logo here. Recently did a rebrand. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. I'm Matt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Caldera. Caldera, we're one of the top L2 platforms on Ethereum. We basically help people launch their own customizable, dedicated L2s and L3s, all secured by Ethereum. We work with a bunch of teams all over the space: gaming, social, DeFi, general purpose, app specific, everything in between. Basically, everyone who's looking to launch their own customizable chain. As you all know, right, Ethereum has a rollup centric roadmap. That has been great in many respects. It's also been somewhat painful. It's introduced new problems into the space. So recently, we launched a product that we're calling the Meta Layer, which is our open connectivity framework across all the rollups in our ecosystem and a bunch of other rollups in the ETH ecosystem. We're building this in the spirit of basically removing walled gardens. So unlike a lot of people have proposed, it's not going to be locked to a specific ecosystem. And we're building it kind of like, we're building a cabal of the best people in the space. So we're building this in conjunction with Hyperlane, Eco, Across, and a whole bunch of other people who are also working on interoperability. And in fact, we're part of a new initiative that the Ethereum Foundation has just spun up called like the Ethereum Open Intense Framework. And so we're like one of about 40 teams that are all working on the same problem to hopefully finally unify Ethereum and make it as easy as possible for people to connect between rollups and for interactions across all the rollups in the Ethereum ecosystem to hopefully finally feel like one chain. All of this in service of getting Ethereum to basically infinite horizontal scale. Really, we think the next generation of apps are going to be built, not only as their own app chains, but oftentimes even in clusters of their own app chains, just because that's the scale that'll be required in order for us to really reach mainstream adoption. Maybe I'll leave it there. Some quick stats. Caldera, we run about 30 chains on mainnet, processed about 400 million transactions across 10 million wallets, secured about $2.5 billion of value at peak. Right now is not the peak, as everyone's aware, but certainly still pushing forward, across the market, ups and downs. Also, one last shout out: we are hosting a poker night tomorrow, Tuesday evening. So if you don't have plans, please come by. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Grant from Etherealize. Whoa.
Can you put this on? Hi, everyone. I used to throw developer meetups and really amazing to see the crowd today. We sort of shut the meetup down after COVID because like everyone left SF, but yeah, this is great. I have to spin it up again. So Etherealize. Etherealize started after the Ethereum ETF launched. I thought this launch would be a huge, amazing catalyst for Ethereum. I thought institutions would onboard onto Ethereum. There would be massive amounts of tokenization products. There would be a wave of ETH buying. Some of that happens, but probably an order of magnitude less than I think I and many others expected and hoped for. So that was the genesis of it. So a couple of friends and I dug into the issue and thought, what's going on here? And we soon discovered that the level of education about Ethereum on Wall Street is extremely low. And so Etherealize is hoping to change that. And that's how we began. We're a marketing, business development, outreach arm to Wall Street and other institutions, as well as doing policy in Washington, D.C. to try and represent Ethereum in D.C. in Congress, among regulatory bodies. That was our original mandate, and then Danny joined us, Danny Ryan. So so we're going to be expanding that into research and development as well to help accelerate Ethereum's roadmap. So we just really want to bring Ethereum forward. We want to bring institutions onto Ethereum. We want to bring Ethereum to the real world and the real world to Ethereum. So we'll be sharing a lot of details in the coming weeks about Etherealize. We've already had a couple early wins. We got Apollo to tokenize $50 million on Ethereum. So that was cool. And we also stole a huge project from Solana. So yeah. We've got other initiatives happening. L2 buildouts from different Wall Street institutions, tokenization initiatives, things of that sort. And we can't really talk about all of them right now, but it's very exciting stuff. So yeah, we just want to bring Ethereum to the next level. So yeah, hope to see you guys all on our journey. So thanks. Yep.
All right. Next up, we have Marek from Celo. Yeah, I think we'll need to. Oh, we can go with Robert. All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Joss, as it says there, Executive Director and CEO of EigenLayer Foundation. So let me just say a couple things about the project here. On the slide, please. Hello. Okay. No, you do not have my slide. Okay, great. All right, so Kun also asked me to make it a one-slide thing, so you can just sort of amaze at this very, beautiful motif of a lot of things on one. He asked me to just kind of describe a couple of things here. By the way, also very happy to be co-sponsoring ETHSF Blockchain Week. I think it's really amazing to see how many people are here. Just love seeing that we have so much enthusiasm growing in our space. It matches how I feel about it. EigenLayer, just curious, how many people in the audience have heard of EigenLayer? Okay, good. All right, the majority. I mean, just basically, at this point, over 150-person protocol. So we have the full gamut of everybody from, pure math, theoretical researchers, crypto economic researchers, huge engineering team, business development, ecosystem partnership, and we're also doing a lot of work on governance as well. So we're kind of, a couple of years earlier than the Graph and EdgeNode and everything else, but it's great to be following in footsteps of a lot of amazing protocols here. Kun asked me to answer a couple of questions. So, one of them is, what do we do? And then the other is, how do we work with Ethereum, in our mind, kind of support Ethereum and the ETH token especially. So, I think it's useful, even if you've heard of EigenLayer before, I think it's helpful that I kind of walk through. I threw up this graphic here of a few people touching the elephant because EigenLayer is a fairly nuanced, kind of rich protocol. It's not just one thing. A lot of people heard about it initially with the kind of first portion of the protocol, which was around restaking security and rewards, which if you look at this diagram here, is only one part of a relatively complex value chain that cycles around. The second part of it, which is the reason for having stakers and operators, is we have these autonomous verifiable services, which if you think about wanting a verifiable cloud, verifiable agents, others, these allow you to take ETH security, as well as the construction of being able to run node software, so very generalized software. And it allows you to put those two together and then run services Services just mean, using a cloud style API together if you're a developer with your protocol. So it doesn't really change how you build a protocol. You just have additional elastic security and a pool of decentralized operators. To give people a feeling of the scale, we're at around, I think, 13 billion of total stake that's available on EigenLayer. And we have hundreds of operators that are available. If you just drop your node software in, they will run it, and you can attach and choose how much stake you want, which node operators, what kind of rewards you're going to give them, and all of the major operators. So it's sort of an easy button for building and getting to scale if you're doing something new or if you want to scale up a protocol. And then the final part of the equation here is apps and agents. So if you think about it, the entire cloud stack that we all build to in Web 2, it has a slew. Most apps are using 10, 20, 30 different types of SaaS middleware services. And the vision of EigenLayer is all of that somehow has to move into a decentralized, verified, autonomous construct. And it's not all going to run on smart contracts. You're not going to have AWS CloudFront and EC2 running as a smart contract direct VM. So EigenLayer is sort of impedance matching the security of blockchain together with how people build, software inside of existing clouds, but allowing them to build it in what's going to be an ever-growing stack of software as a service, platforms as a service, and infrastructure as a service, otherwise known as DPIN in our space. And so you just see the value flow rewards, pay for security, AVSs provide services and get rewards back. And it's a relatively complex thing for us to kind of have spun up, but we really have been able to spin up all four sides. On the AVSs, the apps, and the agents, we're at over 40, around 40 at this point of live things that are on mainnet, and we have approaching 200 additional protocols that are using the AVS construct. So if we get it right, this really could be the security layer that gets us to Web3, and it will just sort of supercharge a tremendous amount of value to protocols all over the crypto space. So I did kind of write it over here as well, but I think I basically said it all. Just build faster with more security and features in a verifiable decentralized cloud. Okay, thank you very much.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Olszewski, and I guess while they're getting up my slides, I'm representing both Celo and Self protocol today. We're both sponsors, and we're really excited to be here. We're excited for you guys to be here. On the Celo side, maybe there's no slides. Oh, there we go. On the Celo side, we're excited. You've probably heard we've been working really, really hard to transition Celo from an L1 to an L2. This has been a pretty epic journey, starting as far back as a year and a half ago now. And we've kind of gone through the forest. We've climbed up the cliffs. We've found the castle. We've entered the castle. We have found the final boss, and we are literally about to slay the final boss. Which is really, really freaking exciting. We just now upgraded our last test net a couple of weeks ago, and everything went smoothly. And so we are now going to do the mainnet upgrade, and we're going to do it in 2 weeks. And so that's really, really around the corner. So we're super, super excited. We're going to have a viewing party on March 25th at 8 p.m. And Vitalik will be there. It's going to be at the Celo Community Center, so you guys are all welcome. We're just really, really excited to come back to Ethereum. We actually started, Celo has its roots in Ethereum, and we'll be coming back really, really soon. And we're just really, really thrilled. And we really, really hope that this will be the start of many, many other alt L1 chains transitioning to become L2s, initially the EVM compatible ones, but hopefully all of them in the future. So that's on the Celo side. And then on the Self side, we are just extremely excited to be bringing kind of this public good to the whole Ethereum ecosystem. Self is kind of the joining forces of the Open Passport team and Self Labs, which spun out of the Celo Foundation. And it's a new ZK Passport protocol that allows you to prove your identity in zero knowledge on chain without a counterparty. And so you might be familiar with biometric passports. Who here has a passport? Just show of hands. A lot of you, amazing. And you probably saw your passports nowadays have these logos on them. This means that there's a microchip inside that can be read with NFC. This means that we can actually read the data in that microchip with your mobile phone. And that chip is actually, that data is actually signed cryptographically through a certificate authority chain up until a certificate authority by your issuing country. And we can actually prove that whole chain in zero knowledge in a smart contract on chain to effectively allow you to prove that you are a unique individual and that and many attributes that exist in your passport. And so it's pretty exciting. You can prove that you're a citizen of a country. You can prove that you're not on the OFAC list. You can prove that you're over a certain age without revealing any personal information about yourself, all without a counterparty, all in smart contracts using Moon Math. It's pretty exciting. And if you are here for the hackathon, maybe I need to be here. Final slide. If you're here for the hackathon, definitely check out our SDK. It allows you to build really fun apps. You know, you can create a DEX that's gated on people not being in the OFAC list. You can build a meme coin that's only available for Bobs. You can build a meme coin that rewards people on their birthday. It's a lot of fun stuff that you can do. We're just really excited. This is live as of literally ETH Denver. And so it's very, very hot off the press. So yeah, thank you so much.
To introduce. All right, thank you, Marek. So next, actually, we finished the section with the Ethereum ecosystem project. Some of the amazing founders you can see went through what they did and the contribution to Ethereum ecosystem. So next, we are on to the next site, which is the VC side of things. We're gonna welcome to the stage 3 VCs we selected who have been big supporters of the Ethereum and Ethereum broader Ethereum ecosystem to share with us their support in the past and their continuous support and vision of the Ethereum and Ethereum ecosystem. So I think they're switching slide. I think you can, 3 of you guys can sit there. I will sit here. We might need some more mic, so you can grab more mic. All right, cool. I think they're still trying to side of things well. So like to welcome the panelists to have a very interesting discussion. So first, I will let the panelists do a brief intro of yourself and the fund you represent, and you're tied to the Ethereum ecosystem. Franklin,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, happy to start. Hey, everyone. I'm Franklin B., general partner at Pantera Capital. We are a blockchain and crypto investor that's been investing in the whole blockchain ecosystem since 2013. We've been seed investors in Arbitrum and Starkware, some of the first investors in Alchemy and Circle. For myself personally, I've been building on Ethereum since 2015. Used to be at JP Morgan, where I started the blockchain team there with a couple other folks. And once Ethereum launched, we decided that was the thing we were going to build on. And so we did things like build out JPM Coin, which now is becoming an enterprise payments network. Built out the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, which was sort of the 1.0 version of Etherealize, and I think they're going to do an even better job. And since then, you know, we've been investing deeply into the ecosystem and trying to build out as much infrastructure alongside developers in the space.
Awesome. Ken?
Hey guys, I'm Ken. I'm also a general partner at Electric Capital. Yeah, like these guys, we've been around this ecosystem basically since the beginning. I would say these days, in addition to investing, you know, we do a lot of stuff in DeFi. We do actually a lot of stuff in the security side, so Sartora, MuniFi, these kinds of things. We're kind of all developer background, technical background, and so we see the importance of that stuff. And then we also like to build a bunch of public tools. So many of you have probably seen our developer report. That's actually inspired probably from our original internal questions about how many people are actually building in Ethereum back in the day. And then, we've done things like we have this little app called CodeSlaw, which some of you may know about. It's a code search engine of all the published smart contracts on chain. And so, yeah, we've always had a model of trying to help out the ecosystem by actually building tools. And yeah, we'll keep doing that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gavin. I'm Chief Investment Officer and Managing Partner for SNZ Capital. So actually, I flew in from Hong Kong. I'm very glad to see all of you here. So actually, SNZ teams started by joining the industry by supporting Ethereum. So back to early days, we participating in translating Ethereum white paper into Chinese and help like Vitalik and the community to build the earliest community in Asia. So even back to 2018, 2017, the community in Asia is already very big, sizable, online, offline. We've got more than. Also, we were founding partner of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. We try to do for enterprise adoption, consortium chain, public chain base. When the DAO incident happened, we wrote the website Carbon Vote to help with the first online governance. And we have been in the industry for nearly one decade now, kind of along with the evolution of Ethereum. Of course, as an investment firm, we also invested in tons of the other Ethereum related projects, Arbitrum, Starnet, tons of others. The team is quite spreading out. I'm based in Hong Kong. My partner is CEO is based in Singapore. I've got a partner in Cupertino as well. We also do some investment into other GPs. So very luckily we are one of the LP for Quinn as well. So we see so many momentum here in Bay Area. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. As you can see, there's a lot of history here going back, really back and globally, not only America, but also Asia, the early days of Ethereum, how you guys grow with Ethereum and a broader Ethereum ecosystem. That's awesome. The question I have next is just like looking forward, right? Since you guys have a lot of tie and history with Ethereum, but looking forward, which sector or project in the Ethereum ecosystem could be more on the infra side, but also application side, you are most excited about this year, you think will be enabled this year?
Anybody want to go first?
Whoever want to go first.
I'll take a stab. I think we have enough block space. I think everybody kind of probably agrees with that. I'm really excited to see the new applications come out. If you look across basically the whole stack, we're a long way from $200 transactions in 2021. You can do almost everything. So really, there are people that will continue to build infra, but I think the thing we really need right now is new applications. I would say, DeFi certainly has a lot of new things that could get built. Probably things in kind of the more social consumer space. I think there's a lot of kind of payments style integrations, I would say. We like to call things like DeFi mullets, like fintech in the front, DeFi in the back, kind of ideas. So yeah, that vision of people keep talking about like when this thing goes mainstream, people won't even know they're using crypto. I think we can actually make that happen now. And hopefully with all the regulations opening up in the US, there's lots of opportunity to do that. So that's actually what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's important to remember what Ethereum has done so well already, which is build this incredibly strong foundation for customizability, for sovereignty, and for composability. And we've seen that really manifest itself first in the DeFi layer. I think that's always been the first step to activate all of the advantages that we see from building on chain. And from what I can see, it feels like we're in this sort of Farmville moment for crypto. And for folks who maybe weren't around when Farmville launched, Facebook at one point, when it was still kind of this emergent network, was really just this photo sharing app for college campuses. It was a lot of disparate networks that really weren't all connected to each other very well. And it was Farmville that was kind of that inflection point for Facebook, where it wasn't just your old friends from high school. It was suddenly your mom, your aunt, your next door neighbor that was filling in all of these gaps in the actual network effect. And so I think it's really going to take these kinds of consumer-facing applications that are going to tie together the network effect that we have so far on Ethereum through DeFi. So we have this financial layer, still pretty disparate and still very much a narrow set of users. But for me, it's really the gaming and entertainment sector that I think is going to start to take off. I think that's always the first sector that figures out how to touch consumers first, how to figure out the right behaviors to incentivize, and just how to make it more fun so that you're not just on chain because of speculative or profit-based reasons. And that's how you get users that are going to fill in the rest of that network effect.
Yeah, I fully agree with like Ken and Franklin mentioned. I think it's very important to kind of focus more on the consumer apps kind of stuff. I think Vitalik mentioned the idea like 2 years ago at ECC. He said like, oh, the infra-wise, we are 50-70% ready, so we should be more focused on the client consumer-facing stuff. I think recently we even see more development in the tech space. Pacture is very exciting. Pacture upgrade is very exciting, I would say. The EIP 7702, I mean, it will lay down the foundation for further development of wallets, like intention-based like trading and also consumer apps, etc. So I'm very excited about this. Again, I think Ethereum and the entire ecosystem contribute quite a lot in terms of tech, etc. in the domain, and we are at the kind of a tipping point that we can turn those tech evolution into the real massive adoption. On the other hand, I'm still very interested in the DeFi or like CDeFi space. On one hand, I think lots of the DeFi names in Ethereum ecosystem are listed ones are highly undervalued. And on the other hand, I think given the regulation, evolution and also the more kind of flexibility we be given in staking in other space, we can see more CeFi DeFi integration. That will bring huge opportunities to Ethereum ecosystem. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us some of your perspective in terms of the future. Seems like there's some quite like consensus-ish kind of view around the consumer application being farm bill or like the DeFi gaming entertainment about to kind of potentially go to mass adoption soon. Another thing I think you guys mentioned, I want to double click, possible maybe like Franklin and Ken's guys based here, American perspective, and Gavin's more from Asian perspective. So I think one thing we start to notice a lot of people are coming back or feel more comfortable to come back to the US because of Trump administration. You guys mentioned also briefly the friendlier regulatory environment is also one of the big enabler other than the block space being available and also the tech is available. What's your view of the short term and long term of the US regulation and its impact in other geographic regions, if you have perspective there too? And also the overall adoption of crypto going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest change with the new administration and just really the regulatory sentiment that's been changing even previous to the elections actually happening, right? I mean, leading up into November of last year, it was both parties in the US that were starting to change their tone, right? And so I think long term, that is the most optimistic thing I can think of. On a very real, on the ground level, why that matters is because if you're building something today in crypto, there's $2 million that you don't need to spend anymore, hopefully, on lawyers and regulatory advice and going to Washington, D.C., if not more than $2 million. And so just lowering the barrier of entry for builders in that way is incredibly useful. And so, I hope that we'll see a whole new wave of entrepreneurs embrace this. And, going back to the consumer side, I think that's where we're going to see the most, from a percentage standpoint, the most impact because people have been building regulated businesses and financial services, exchanges, custodians, et cetera, because there was a path to doing that, right? You knew which licenses you needed to have. Sure, it would cost a lot of money, but you could do it. The consumer side is where people really lost their appetite, right? If I'm coming from a Fang or, call it Snapchat or ByteDance or whatever, why would I take the risk of possibly going to jail just because I'm trying to build something fun for as many people as possible? right? That risk reward just doesn't work out for any great entrepreneur anywhere. And I think taking that off the table is just a huge, huge game changer. Okay, go ahead. Okay. So I think the point here is that from a financial perspective, the money being paid out was through civil penalties, not criminal penalties. Is that fair to say that's what your point is?
Yeah, I think overall the friction is less with more certainty in the regulatory space. That doesn't mean like you build something, you go to jail, but the certainty is higher now with a more certain framework. You know, you follow this framework, you will be safer. Right? I think overall friction is going down with more certainty on the.
I mean, if you're a founder, you know, does it really matter? I mean, it's kind of a if the regulatory agencies are coming after you anyways, then it's kind of like, you know, that factors into your math either way, whether you're going to jail at the end or not, right? Like the fact that that's even a possibility is like is a great deterrent. I don't know if you're done. I'm tell his whole life, and so I got to see that up close. But it strikes me that like crypto is probably like the most organized politically out of all those movements. We saw, you know, Microsoft kind of get screwed up in Washington. We saw Facebook and Google, obviously, in the last, you know, 10 years, kind of get taken to town in front of Congress. We all watched those proceedings. So this election cycle, you know, whatever you think of Trump, all the stuff that happened at the legislative level has been really quite amazing. The amount of organization and the amount of seats friendly representatives and lawmakers that we've been able to get in there. So yeah, I mean that's really amazing. And then just to add on to what Frank was saying, there's sort of one weird silver lining to this, which is that because the crypto stuff has been in a regulatory kind of gray area for a long time, it sort of has given a lot of people on sort of the Web 2 side of the world time to kind of figure out what's going on and seeing what's real. So I've actually been surprised. There's a lot of folks on the Web 2 side that actually know exactly what's going on, but just wouldn't touch it because of the risks. And so really what I think is exciting about all the regulatory stuff, you know, certainly the people in crypto can continue to build out their things and you know, kind of reach more into the real world, so to speak. But there's actually a lot of companies out there that are already seeing the benefits of the tech that we're building. They've gotten to see it for 15 years, and now they can actually touch it without risking their original business. And so whether that means, you know, I think we can go a lot farther than like Starbucks issuing, you know, NFTs, right? We can do a lot more interesting things now. And that's actually what I find really exciting about the future here.
Yeah, I'm not an expert about what happening in the States, but I just like my observation in past few weeks. First one, I think it definitely is very constructive, like progress we can see in terms of regulation, evolution, etc., and also the mainstream adoption. Oh, by the way, my previous career was with UBS for 8 years in investment banking. So always focusing fintech space. I major in finance and law. I'm also on the Web3 committee for Hong Kong governance. So I do lots of time on the policy kind of stuff. I totally agree with what Ben and Franklin mentioned. It's very coordinated political efforts and very kind of a good progress in recent years, especially after Trump came to power. I want to mention several small points. The first one is like different people may have a different perspective about the word crypto, digital assets, or Web3. So when like politicians and Wall Street guys and talking about like the mainstream adoption, it might not be altcoin, may not be all the other things, right? Because in my personal view, there are two major investment theses in the space. First one is digital assets as an alternative asset class. The penetration rate, wallet share picking up, which is an inevitable trend. This is happening after BTC ETF recognition. We see lots of money will be flooding into the space, and lots of regulation and breakthrough will be happening in the next few years. And the second thing is like, whether blockchain, you know, as a tag or as an ideology whether it can bring more business innovation, can bring more like the real demand of a like the breakthrough for mobile internet. This is I would say still wait to be seen. And on the one small point, a little bit frustration I see during my US trip is like nowadays the supply might be a little bit too much, given like the entry barrier for either token or for startup might be a little bit too low. Sometimes I sense like people's attention got a little bit distracted. So some of the very fundamental, very long-term builders, they might not have a kind of a fair attention or whatever. But in the long run, I'm still very confident. I think this kind of thing will be corrupted because in the history we see so many bubbles, right? But in the end, what really matter will matter. And also, I just want to do a little bit of sharing about, like, as Kun mentioned, like the other perspective in Hong Kong. Maybe people are very curious about what is happening in China. I would say domestic in China, it might be a bit long shot, right? To push like digital asset, whatever in short term, given that China still has our currency control. But like in China, the government is super supportive about blockchain technology. Like while like Hong Kong is now, you can see in past few years there are lots of progress. Like Hong Kong, they have already issued license for crypto exchanges. Hong Kong's stablecoin legislative process is already passed the first review. After 3 reviews, they will get a stablecoin a license to be issued likely in Q2, Q3 this year. So also, many of you may know, like consensus was in Hong Kong in February. There are lots of discussion. I see lots of momentum in Asia as well. And again, by the end of the day, it's still like the developers matters, right? In Asia, in China, still have lots of developers. In the future, I think they will contribute a lot for the entire industry. Just like for a small advertisement in the end, so in April, along with the Web3 Festival in Hong Kong, we're launching Ethereum Asia as well, together with Weixiang Blockchain and several of the other partners. Welcome all of you to come there and to see the local community. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. And also want to be mindful of time, so will be like probably last question for like we'll probably have a few minutes left. I'm really curious about your views of crypto AI. I'm actually surprised that you guys have not mentioned the word in your answer, given it's one of the key reasons why we're hosting ETHSF is because crypto AI and BR is being the headquarter of AI. So it's very easy to attract AI developers. What's your view of the current? Is a lot of vaporware or some traction you see? And what about the future? And what's a gap you see? You think there's some potential, or it's just completely vaporware?
Yeah, happy to start. I talk about crypto and AI just because I feel like everyone's ears are so tired about hearing of it. But I think for us, it's still something we're super excited about. I mean, San Francisco is the place to do that, right? And the way I think about it is there's really 2 aspects. One is crypto as this complementary technology to AI and LLMs, and the other is as a counterforce to it. And the reason I say it's both of those things is because I think as AI becomes this more powerful and sort of omnipotent sort of part of our lives, 2 things are going to happen. I think one is that as we see different models compete against each other, and we know that the table stakes for any model today is just having consumed the entire internet, then I think what becomes ultimately the most valuable is having access to proprietary or contextual data, right? The type of data or metadata that humans really can only provide. And so to actually create that metadata layer and incentivize that kind of human contribution back to LLMs so that they can compete further with each other, you really need, a global protocol that can incentivize that behavior, can facilitate payments across people around the world, and attribute the usage of that data to different models. And that's really something that only blockchains and really maybe only even Ethereum can solve in the long term. But as a counterforce, I think it's the other thing, which is that I think AI as a technology also creates its own problems, right? I mean, people on our team have been deep faked already, right? And, that's something that we'll need to grapple with is this whole need for proof of humanity, proof of authentication, proof of origination. Again, it's something that can only happen at scale on a decentralized network and protocol. So, I think both of those things are things that humanity will need. And so hopefully we'll see more and more people building all those necessary things.
I can maybe give a perspective from maybe a little bit more DeFi or financial point of view. We're starting to see projects that are sort of these kind of terminal interfaces to do investing kind of activity. I think that stuff is super interesting. One thing that seems to be true about most DeFi projects is they're not very good at building UIs. Just kind of the design side of the equation has always been a little bit lacking. And we may not actually even have to build UIs in the future, if you think about it. So in terms of a way to unlock access to sort of these complicated systems in a really simple way, I think there's tons of potential there. Obviously, we're early. Obviously, we have lots of issues about whether these agents or these LLMs actually even do the right thing. In terms of gaps, one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, so far we have, we have this model where we have a wallet. You go to some site, you kind of know what you're doing. You click the button and it says, "Oh, do you want to actually do this thing and confirm this action?" If we have a bot generating all the actions, then at some point, really, it's on the human to verify, whether this action actually does what you wanted it to do. And so, actually, even the paradigm of what a wallet should do starts to change. Is it really just about confirming the thing that you just explicitly told it to do, or is it about actually helping the user understand? Oh, here's actually all the consequences if you accept what this AI just suggested. And so, I think we're still just so early in this space. We don't know how good these things are going to get. We just had that crazy thing come out of China like yesterday. Was it yesterday? I don't even know. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like the evolution speed is so quick that it's a little bit hard to put your finger on it right now. But yeah, I think there's tons of potential going forward.
Yeah, if we have agents interacting with agents, I think crypto UX is just going to get uglier. We won't even have to look at
possible.
it.
I really like the way like Franklin describes the relationship between blockchain and AI. You mentioned like the complementary and the counterforce. Besides, I think there are two major principles that are, in the long run, I'm very positive about the blockchain AI, crypto AI collaboration. The first one is, if you are seeing, if we believe like AI will be massively adopted in next 2-3 decades, there will for sure needs decentralized governance. We cannot imagine something monopolized by anyone. Like so, data like computation power or a model, right? So that's the first principle. The second thing is I entirely believe that AI will need to change the current financial system. It should be an open finance system. Might be BTC, might be Ethereum. I don't know, but like definitely is related to blockchain, crypto. So that's in the long run, I'm very positive. But in the short term, I see there are so many hypes. Even in the Web2 world, right? I see lots of narratives and a little bit, I would say variation, a little bit adulterated. In the crypto AI space, I see lots of efforts, but I don't think lots of very long-term projects are there. However, I'm still very interested and to commit more to spend more time. I think three interesting things our current remaining focus. We think are very feasible. The first one's AI labeling, the data labeling stuff. I think definitely there's a real need. The second thing is like AI empower, AI kind of enabled like a trading robot, like wealth advisory robot, and etc. For example, one of our portfolio companies here, so they have developed like the robot for option market making. So this is also a real needs and generating revenue, very profitable. The last one, I think maybe it's a time to rethink about like storage as well. People spend lots of time about like computation capacity, etc. But like, given nowadays we have so many kind of AI GC stuff, right? So a decentralized storage might be another thing we should probably take back to table. Yeah, that's my thought. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Gavin and Ken and Franklin, for sharing with us the insight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So next, actually, I'm going to start the product demo section. Trying to click on the clicker. Doesn't seem to work. Yeah, I want to make sure it works. So next, we have Namil Dalar, who's lead of Coinbase developer platform and well at Coinbase. So let's welcome Namil to the stage.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Namil. I lead developer products at Coinbase. I also used to lead USDC there and helped get it to its first $1 billion. How many people here have done something with an AI agent on chain? Okay, maybe like a third of the room. Awesome. Well, really quickly, Coinbase Developer Platform, our vision, we have a lot of the tools that you need to build on chain, from a payment stack, nodes, soon indexers, verification, paymasters. But I really want to zero in on AgentKit, which is our framework for AI agents. So what AI AgentKit lets you do is easily hook up in any AI, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, any of those, to an on-chain wallet. It's model agnostic, it's wallet agnostic. You can use it with Privy and others. Yeah, it's open source, fully open source. And just in the last 4 months, we talked about on-chain AI in the last panel. Just in the last 4 months, it's gone from 0 users. It was launched in November by Lincoln, who's in the crowd today from our team. 20,000 AI agents use it now. 2,000 plus developers have integrated it, and protocols like Virtuals, OpenMind, Hyperbolic are all running on it. And by the way, the coolest use case that we're seeing, you saw this on the other panel, is natural language wallets. You can talk to your wallet. You don't need to go through pop-ups like the folks on our panel were saying. Arbitrage bots is another really big one, and then autonomous characters and avatars. But there's one big problem. With today's tooling, you cannot easily pay for things. So for example, you have an AI agent, you just want to make an API request. I want to go to Twilio, and I want to be able to send an SMS, for example. But they have an API key, so you can't actually do that. Same thing, I want some financial data to let my arbitrage agent do some things on Uniswap. Actually, that is not available because you have to pay for that. And then lastly, there are things like my AI agent just needs to pay its own bill. I want an autonomous AI agent, I want it to pay its own bill. And actually, even if it might have $1 million or $1 billion of tokens in its wallet, it cannot do that today. So we just posed ourselves a question. What if crypto could become the native payments layer for machines? Crypto is actually amazing at this because it's an API. AI agents and machines know how to call APIs. And so we looked at the HTTP 1.1 spec. And if you look at it, there's something called 402. So this responds to a request, not with a 200, but with a 402 payment required. And it, again, says it's reserved for future use. And if you go to the Bitcoin talk forums, 15 years ago, people were talking about this idea for Bitcoin. Could we use that directly then as a payments layer for machines? If you even look back maybe at 21, that company that Balaji Srinivasan used to run, they had the same idea. But I think this time is a little bit different. One is with L2s, with L3s now, you have zero fee, near instantaneous transactions, number one. Two is the integration for this is super, super easy. It's literally one line of code. If you were doing an Express on Node.js, super, super easy. And I think most crucially, there's a use case for it. There are AI agents that need to be able to access the APIs that are out there, and they can, and they want to pay for it. By the way, it can be used for much more than AI. I'm focusing on AI, but it can be used for things like streaming payments, paywalls. You can actually do a paywall where you charge 10 cents or 5 cents for an article. And so part of our vision is let's kill the API key. I assume every developer here at some point in their career signed up for an API key. But this is not the right paradigm for an AI agent. If anything, an AI agent wants to discover the APIs that are out there, pay on a streaming basis for what they are. And that's why, because the internet was built for humans, but a lot of the internet increasingly is going to be used for AI. So how does this thing work? It's an open source standard. So we're going to be publishing this. We're going to be sharing prototype on this. This is fully open source. Anyone can use it. And we're excited for the whole world, ideally, to use it. But the way it works is you ask for an API. You get a response back. Hey, 402, payment required. And there are a few fields there that they give you. Here's the max amount. Here's the address you have to pay. Here's the chain ID. So this could be any EVM chain. It could be other networks beyond Ethereum as well. And then what you do is you include your header, you include a payload, and you send it along. And that server, let's say it's Twilio, let's say it's somewhere else, what they do is they verify it. Think about this as like basically like using a lightweight node to be able to do this. They verify that there's actually money there, that the wallet can do that. Then they do some work, and then they call settle, and then they crucially go ahead and broadcast a transaction. So your end user doesn't even need to be able to connect to a node, the AI agent. Now, MCP, Model Context Protocol, has been getting a lot of buzz recently. If my Twitter feed is just full of it. And Anthropic basically launched a super easy way for you to be able to call APIs. But the cool thing is, X402 works perfectly with that. So like you have your client request, you hook it up to a post chat call, you do a payment, and that's it. It's verified on chain. So I think that it's always scary to do a live demo. I'm going to attempt to do this. So instead of an AI, I'm actually just going to use like a paywall. Pretend this is a paywall. I'm going to get some music, which is on the other side. So I say connect wallet. Okay, it found my wallet. That's my Coinbase wallet right here, which you can see. And I'm just going to say pay now. Checking, creating the payment signature. Pops up. Sign it. Requesting the content with the payment. So it's the server's received it. Now it's going to broadcast it. Amazing. And here I go. I have access to this SoundCloud music. And I didn't hook up my computer to the music, but you can hear some of it here as well. So I'm going to pause this. And that is it. So like we are just getting started with this. This is initial standard. There's an initial protocol, a server that we can use to set this up. If you're excited to use this, reach out to me. There's a few folks here from my team, Kevin LaFew, if you want to stand up, and Lincoln Murr. We're all around. So if you want to talk about this, you're interested, what we're starting to do is just look for early partners to kick the tires, give us feedback, iterate on this. You can imagine this will be, we're going to make a big deal of it at a future Ethereum event. But right now, we're looking for the local community here in San Francisco, which is where a lot of us are based, to be able to give feedback on this, see how we want to iterate on it, how it might fit your use case. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be right here. Our team will be right here as well. If not, you can catch us today. Just don't hesitate to ping on any of these channels. Thank you.
Right. Next up, we have Tom from Base.
Cool. All right. This is going to be fun. Packed house. So my name's Tom. I'm from Base, and I wanted to share a little bit about what we are building, our collaboration with Ethereum, and then how all y'all can get started building on Base, of course. So at Base, our North Star is to build this on-chain global economy with 1 billion people using it and 1 million builders, $1 trillion worth of assets on chain in sub-second transactions. And so really this is many of the things that we've been hearing about this morning. We understand how important it is for the blockchain to be scaled, and we're really trying to make it dead simple for users to come on and for people to build effectively. So going to be sharing just a little bit about what we've been doing. And yeah, my name's Tom. I'm head of product at Base. So focusing on making the chain more valuable, easier to use, helping everyday people come on with our smart wallet, and then building some developer building blocks in collaboration with Namil and team at Coinbase Developer Platform. So I did just want to call this out a little bit too, because I was at the Base Rollup Summit earlier today and also thinking about a number of things. It's really important for us to build in public, and we really have invested in different areas of improving the Ethereum protocol, all the way from the work we did on proto-dank sharding to like wallet innovation stuff. It's really important. Definitely scaling. We're really pushing hard for the peer DAS to be just the one thing, maybe EOF also, that follows Pectra, and really excited for the blob target scaling in Pectra. If you're interested in any of this stuff, it's not exactly at the app layer. You can go check out our blog at engineering.base.org, and we have a whole blog on blob ACK. So if you're passionate about blob space scaling, you can tap in there. Cross-chain interop, all these types of things. One thing I did want to call out too, we are marching heads forward towards stage 1 decentralization. Very important for us, and we are going to get there this year. We mindfully took the step last quarter and got fault proofs live, and we are taking the same step mindfully to get the Security Council live and to be a stage 1 decentralized rollup. So wanted to call that out. Also, we care a lot about privacy. Y'all may have seen that the Ironfish team is going to be joining Coinbase and Base to help bring privacy preserving building blocks for builders and for everyday people. So we're doing a lot. There's a lot of different areas, but one thing I'm not talking about is speed. So, you know, we shared this last week at ETH Denver, but essentially Base is getting faster. We have this live on Sepolia testnet today. So this is a collaboration between us and Flashbots to basically bring 10 times faster. So instead of 2-second full blocks, we have 200 millisecond effective block times. And really anything I can think that I want to do on chain, I would love to do it 10 times faster. So you can tap in, there's some information. And I thought what I would do very quickly, because I just have 2 minutes left, I wanted to show, so we did a builder side quest at ETH Denver last week. I know a lot of people here were building in the Buildathon there, or they're building their own startup. But what we did is we put out a call where we said, all right, we're going to put up 2 ETH for the next 24 hours because we want people to show us just how much faster flash blocks on Sepolia are with our new RPC WebSocket than the full blocks are. And we got 26 submissions, and I wanted to highlight some of them here just to show you what people are building with these AI-powered tools. People are building very fast. I think we got our first submission in the first 4 hours, if not less than that. So yeah, we put this up, and really we just showed a very dead simple UI for people. Hey, here's the full blocks every 2 seconds. Hey, here's the flash blocks every 200 milliseconds, so 10 times faster. And look at some of the things that people built in just 24 hours. Vibe coding is real, it's here, it's possible. This was the winner, Game of Life on the blockchain. So you could see how much faster life could evolve if it was 10 times faster. That would be quite impactful. Shout out to Adam Fuller, that was amazing. Another one, this was fun, like Mavis Beacon teaches typing, if you guys remember that game on the blockchain. How fast can you type? Very frustrating to type with a 2-second delay. Oh, this one was good. It was a leaderboard. It was another type of speed challenge. This one was cool. Flash catch. You had to go try and catch the faster blocks. That was difficult. Another one that was great that a builder built, Shruti, around going fast. How much faster does 200 milliseconds feel than 2 seconds? And this one was fun. This one was fun. It didn't allow you to submit a transaction, but you could see how much faster iconic landmarks would have been built if they could have been built 10 times faster. So some of these were just some fun things that, again, the community built. We ended up giving away 3 ETH because we loved everybody, their submissions. And what will you build is my prompt. So on-chain kit is some building blocks that we've collaborated with Coinbase Developer Platform to build. Makes it dead simple to get started. You can go to base.org/builders. These are ready-to-use React components and some TypeScript utilities. So for instance, one is a swap component. Another one is an earn component that can just plug into any 4626 vault like Morpho, Moonwell, Spark, Aave, any of these. Yeah, and basically recommended by 10 to the power 18 builders out of 10 to the power 18 builders. Everybody loves on-chain kit. Get involved. And yeah, excited. We have a 5K bounty to build a great consumer app on Base. Excited to see what y'all do. I'm tom.base.eth on Twitter if you want to follow along, and reach out if you're building something cool. I'd love to see what it is. Cheers.
All right. Next up, we have Ayush from ZK Email.
Thank you. Cool. So I wanted to talk a bit about a bunch of interesting ideas you can make with ZK technology, which has been, in my opinion, a little bit underexplored in the product space. And so why are, for instance, starting with emails interesting? Well, they're interesting because they have asymmetric signatures on them. Every single email, you may not know this, has a signature that says RSA signed by the sender, explaining where it came from, where the sender will sign it, and then the user who receives the email will verify it and ensure that it's not spam. This is used for spam prevention, but you can imagine hijacking the signature and then making a ZK proof of it. And if you do that and you build a bunch of cool tooling around ZK regex to extract the information you want to reveal, you can now build this arbitrary primitive that lets you make these signature proofs. And the idea is that if you verify these proofs directly, you can then verify they came from a sender without any intermediary in the middle. You can extract information via ZK regex, and you can verify it directly on chain, which is quite powerful. But what can you use this for? Well, you can imagine the simplest idea is whistleblowing, where you could redact information and prove that you still got that email. Maybe you got a file from somebody at the NSA, but you don't want to reveal who you are, or hey, you know, I work at this company and I'm not going to tell you who I am, but I have this piece of information. And that's exciting. But you can also imagine taking this in the next level, where you take any email in your inbox and you build a marketplace on top of it. This is what ZKP2P did. They realized, oh, Namecheap sends you emails when you transfer a domain to somebody. So now that we get those emails, when we verify this email on chain, we can build an escrow system where you send ETH to a smart contract, and the ETH is only released when either party proves a domain has been transferred. This is quite cool. Any email receipt you receive of action in the real world can be used to build a marketplace on top of it on Ethereum. And this is live. And it should be quite easy to define a new kind of proof. So it's a little bit hard to read, but you can kind of try these out yourself. There's a bunch on the right side. Like, for instance, you can prove you have some Twitter account. You can prove you merged to GitHub PR. You can prove you're accepted to a conference, whatever. Anything you have a receipt of in your email, you can prove. If you want to make a new one, it's super easy. You define. It's a little bit hard to read from the back, but you define something like the text you want to extract, who sent it, a couple more fields of metadata, and we will handle compiling the ZK proof, deploying all the infrastructure for you. So the idea is you can make these super fast. People have made lots of cool things. You can verify you signed a document. You can verify you took a flight. You can verify you're part of a Slack workspace. And now you can kind of see where like the composability aspect of Ethereum comes in, where you can combine these things and say, oh, anybody part of the Slack workspace can automatically get reimbursed for a flight to this place under this amount of money. And you can start building these permissionless systems. You can prove you exported your certain data from certain platforms. This is exciting for training ML models, because now you can actually verify this data is legitimate and came from its original source and isn't, you know, kind of made up by somebody. You can export your OpenAI data and sell that to Anthropic. You can prove you published an NPM package. You're like a developer. You can prove you like did a KYC somewhere else and then now reuse it somewhere else on chain. And these proofs are really interesting and expansive. And we had, I think, over the last month, like over 5,000 proofs go through this registry of people just making these proofs and proving various aspects about themselves and then using that in some interesting way. Another idea is that one idea is you could use emails in your inbox and make these proofs. Another idea is you can send emails and use that to trigger actions. This is quite exciting for wallet security because this matters even more in an age where it's very easy to fake things about yourself. For instance, like fake IDs or fake verifications. So you really need hard cryptographic security, especially when you're talking about wallets. So one thing that make the chain very easy for people to use would be having email login. And so this is something that you can do with exactly this technology. You prove you have any login JWT. Now you can OAuth into any app with emails without any centralized party to any safe account, and then have an independent front end verify that data, meaning you now have like a second layer of security. You can do account recovery where you can say, oh, these are my guardians, and they can all recover my wallet if they all agree that it should be transferred. It's quite exciting. Again, all these things are live. You can add emails to safes. We're still working to get this integrated, and account recovery is live on mainnet as well. And the idea is you can kind of take take this composable building block quite far. You can combine it with controlling accounts and then taking actions through that, because on one side you have the verification, but on the other side you also want to take interesting actions. This is a very interesting example of using TEs to make devil's deals on Twitter. We have a ton of ideas on our GitHub. All of our work is totally open source, MIT licensed. And the idea is that you can actually make emails is just one example of this, but you can expand a little bit and think of any signature. So for instance, signed DNS, websites with SXG, passports like Self was talking about earlier, PDFs are signed, app execution is signed with app attest, and you can really expand the world and take these concepts and apply them to any signature you see in the real world. And And in general, I think advanced cryptography is very underrated. I think people should continue using not just ZK, but PSI, witness encryption, co-snarks. I think there's a ton of interesting things that are unlocked when you add all these tools. Sweet. So if people are curious, these are various links. If you go to zk.email, you can see and try out all these ideas that I just mentioned. Sweet. Hopefully this inspired you a little bit.
Right. So we have.
I'm Henry Binstock, or Henri in French. I'm the co-founder at OkContract, and I'm going to talk today about dApps beyond HTML and JavaScript. So you may ask yourself, why this title, or what does it come from? And in fact, it comes from Vitalik, and thanks for writing that. Basically, that we need to go beyond HTML and JavaScript to write the business logic of dApps, and this is what's been missing in specification up to now, and I mentioned that we've been working on that at OkContract. So why a new programming language? And we have something which has been happening. Like 50 years ago, you have been people writing assembly, and meaning that they need to understand everything that happened. But then came high-level programming languages, and then all these details could be somehow abstracted, and you wouldn't need to understand everything about the silicon to be able to program. And today, a new generation of languages is happening, in part because of LLMs. Because right now, I see a lot of younger developers, they just prompt LLMs to write programs, and they don't understand every single line of the program anymore. So it's a bit like you were programming in high-level languages and people make fun of you because you don't know assembly and the silicon. So, yeah. So this led us to write a new programming language, which we call LambdaScript, and which is a DSL, which we think has all the right properties to be the language to specify the on-chain interaction. First, it's a domain-specific language which has knowledge about what the blockchain is and which enables to bring additions to that knowledge, like now cross-chain, multi-chain. This is something that we can express. Then it's a purely functional programming language. So why? Because it enables proofs. It enables maybe later on to have ZK proofs of the execution of that program. It enables automated reasoning, so we can be sure more easily that it's the right interaction. And we'll speak about that in a minute. It's strongly statically typed, which helps a lot for LLMs, because if we annotate the types, then the LLM just understands it better. And it has order independence and other properties. I'll be speaking on Wednesday, as well at the Stanford AI Summit, with more details about that. So what does it look like? Here is the complete specification of an on-chain interaction with Uniswap v3, which involves no less than 4 smart contracts. You have the router, you have a quarter, and you have the 2 tokens. And here is the complete specification. Right now, if you look at the Uniswap front end, this semantics is split about 1,000 lines of JavaScript, and if you look at the front end, including maybe some lines in React hooks, which are really not easy, in fact, to understand or to put together. So this is very simple. What can we do in practice with that specification? Can we play the video? The video is coming, hopefully. Yes, 5 seconds is loading. So basically, with that same interaction, we have built a developer hub where developers can express and look at these interactions. Another thing we can do is automatically generate the UI from that specification using purely deterministic algorithms. There's no AI in that, sorry. Okay, internet is coming. And so basically we can generate the very short React, for instance, SDK snippet, which you just need to copy paste in your own code or an empty application and just run it. And you can have the same auto-generated interface. Now we switch to supplying lending on Compound. And this basically has been completely generated. You just need to copy paste the code and you have a front end. Oh, okay. What about something else? What's coming next? What's coming next is not only front ends, but AI agents, of course. And the good thing is we can same specification and provide it to AI agents so they can transact on chain. This was exactly what was discussed in the last panel. And basically, we are going to release an SDK with feature for agents extremely soon. We're targeting April 1st, so it will be a joke. And this is what the code looks like. So basically 5 lines of code. The only thing what matters is the interaction ID, which is the specification of that interaction. And we can embed it anywhere. And there's something else, and I've finished by this, is we can do automated verification at the specification level. And this changes the game. For instance, something like the safe front-end attack, which played a backbeat, basically could have been avoided because we could check what's happening behind the scene. And we can build all together as a community, because Ethereum is a community. We can build a safe catalog of those interactions. We already support 2,000 contracts, but we can add many more to them. And check that these are the legitimate transactions and attest them. And we're already using EAS for that. So this is how basically, as a community, we can build this safe world of what we can do on chain. And we are building the foundations for that, the interactions for both humans and AI agents. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Next up, we have a panel focused on how we can help grow Ethereum together. It's being moderated by Liraz from the Ethereum Ecosystem Fund and our very own Vitalik and Tomas in his new avatar as the co-executive director of the EF.
All right. So I'd like to start maybe with a question that's been on a lot of people's minds, which is, what would it take to 10x Ethereum's growth and impact from here? Straight to the point. Check, check.
Okay. Oh, I see. Test 1, 2. Okay, good. Yeah. So the way that I see like Ethereum's impacts today, right, is that there is a large volume of these financial applications, and like some of it is like people using ETH or various Ethereum based assets for like savings and payments and finance and so on. Then there is like an entire spectrum of like various financial gadgets, like some of which are completely crazy. Then there is like the second tier of like what I consider cooler and stuff like prediction markets and DAOs and on-chain social media platforms and all of that. And like I think there is a huge amount of potential in these things, but those are the things that tend to have like relatively a much lower level of usage today, right? And so the question is like how to 10x things, right? And generally it's easier to like 10x a small thing than it is to 10x an already big thing. But on the other hand, if you can like refine and improve the big thing, then that also makes more impact by itself, right? And so one of the and so I think there's a few different pieces of the puzzle, right? Like one of them is if you go down into each, like dig down into each individual use case, right? If you just like think of just payments and savings, right? Then like you need on ramps and off ramps, and like on ramps and off ramps are totally not the specialty of the kinds of people that come to ETHSF, unless you're like say I don't know Marek from Celo, you're here, but it's done a lot of digging into that stuff, and some other people have, right? But like on average, it's like it's not a nerd problem. It's like an on the ground like making integrations with a whole bunch of local things problem, right? And and then there's bottlenecks on the user interface side, and then like there's just a whole bunch of different bottlenecks in a whole bunch of different places. And once you get into applications, it's just inevitably that way. So that's one part of the problem. Another part of the problem is just like Ethereum needs to have enough scale to meet all of this activity, right? And like today, we have enough blob space to do and enough gas to do about 15 TPS on L1 and about 250 TPS on L2. Can you guess how much TPS we're doing on L1? It's 15. Can you guess how much TPS we're doing on L2? It's about 250. So, if we want these numbers to be higher, like we have to just like actually do things like increasing the blobs, right? Which is, of course, top priority for the developers. Yes. Clap to everyone working on blobs. Yeah. Also, clap to everyone who is helping to rescue Halashki and giving us a live fire of like Ethereum actually getting into exceptional cases. It's actually better to do this stuff on testnets than back in like 2016, where we had like open warfare happening on chain on mainnet. Like, who here remembers that? Those were the days, right? So it's like just making Ethereum actually capable of handling all of the activity is another piece. But I think, like in general, there is no silver bullet, right? There's just like a collection of different hard problems at all kinds of different layers of the stack.
But you recently wrote something interesting about how maybe we need to be more pragmatic in terms of like how we're thinking about decentralization versus utility. Could you maybe like expand a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I tend to summarize the underlying goal in one sentence is that we're trying to maximize the number of users who are using Ethereum and who benefit from the properties like openness, permissionlessness, censorship resistance, security, privacy, the kinds of properties that are the reasons that motivated us to get into building Ethereum in the first place. And so on the one hand, if you have 100 million users, but those 100 million, and they're theoretically making transactions on chain, but they're all inside of a permissioned walled garden ecosystem. And like one company has backdoors and they can go and like censor whoever they want, to grab coins from whoever they want. There's no interoperability. And then like you really have to ask the question, well, okay, you have some transactions happening on a blockchain, and maybe they'll make Justin Drake more happy because Ethereum is more ultrasound, but like what is the underlying value to humanity of all this, right? And then on the other side, you have applications like, I mean, even if you take like Farcaster, for example, right? Like the number of transactions happening on chain is actually very low, right? Like basically one transaction to register an account, and then another transaction every time you do anything with account recovery, but then otherwise everything is off chain, right? And then the question, but then on the other hand, like what value are users of Farcaster getting? And like the answer is actually quite a bit, right? Like for example, it is a live social network where lots of activity is happening, where if Warpcast suddenly gets bought up by a crazy guy, and you have as a user have the choice, and you can go like switch to Firefly, you can go switch to Taco, you can just like go switch over to something else, and the switching cost is like extremely low, right? And you have like as a like the barrier to entry is lower, the barrier to creating a new client is much lower, right? And like you get all of these very practical benefits. You also get the benefit of having your social media account be controlled by your Ethereum account instead of being controlled by a essential provider, right? So like there are very real benefits that you can point to, even though like those benefits are of the flavor of the type of benefits that are the reason why like we actually got into Ethereum in the first place, right? But on the other hand, like the contribution to like making Justin Drake happy is a bit smaller, right? And so like it's about maximizing usage, but at the same time like maximizing like actual concrete benefit in terms of like properties. And so it's like X times Y, right? Like it's like, if you have X without Y, it equals 0. If you have Y without X, it also equals 0. And then, if you remember the, like calculus, it's like the value of increasing x by 1 is proportional to y, and the value of increasing y by 1 is proportional to x. So like actually, the optimum is to focus on an even balance between the two, and like actually focus on the one that is weaker at some particular time, right? And so in terms of scaling, like we need to both do the scale and like actually get to 10,000 TPS happening on chain, but then we want those 10,000 TPS to be 10,000 TPS that's actually enabling 10,000 interactions that actually contribute to a more interoperable and free and open world. So, and that means like things like, we want layer 2s to be stage 2 instead of stage 1 and stage 1 instead of stage 0. We want user funds to be stored in a wallet where users actually have secure custody over them, and like it's not just one private key where if your device gets hacked you lose everything, and it's also not just people holding all of their money on an exchange where if it's run by the wrong Sam then everyone loses all their money, right? And so like it's important to actually think about like both of these pieces of the puzzle and put a very large effort into both of them at the same time.
So you want to accelerate, but there's still something valuable you want to preserve while you're doing that. Well, right. I want to. You've been talking for a while, so let's Tomasz, get a word in. So Tomasz, you have a wide perspective on the ecosystem, but you've been doing things before for quite some time. How do you view Ethereum's competitive advantages, and how do we make the most of that to drive things forward?
Yeah, I think that one of the Ethereum's competitive advantage sits on the right of me. And it's just about taking advantage of the vision and thought leadership of Vitalik. And it matters because you come to communities and you set the roadmap, and then you convert it to the deliveries through the ecosystem, connect people and build. The strength of the leadership, of the pure legitimacy of the researchers attracts more talent. People want to come over and want to start. So you can never expect that Ethereum will not be attracting young new builders, because that's somehow was questioned recently. People will come and want to see what's the next vision. And nowadays, you see, we start talking about AI agents on Ethereum. We are in San Francisco, so this is where lots of the next innovation will be happening. I think the fact that the place is full, that everyone is here. These are the next builders and the next exciting things. What are advantages? Like all the people that were building for many, many years. I've joined the ecosystem in 2017, and there's so many faces that continue building with the same energy that they were building with when I was joining. And they come with new ideas. They continue the products. They not abandoning those. This is all very vibrant, and people also didn't lose the values. So yes, we're talking about acceleration. We're talking about the values behind, and this is very, very strong offering. Like, so people come to Ethereum and they think like it's almost when you think about Ethereum like an economy that has a strength of economy. It's its own products and services that it delivers, and why people want to buy into that economy, why they want to get ETH, join the chain, and start playing with it. So the fact that it's censorship resistance, the fact that it cares about privacy, the fact that there is the culture that it is on Ethereum brings people in, and this is definitely long-term advantage. And also it's quality of engineering. I think that we see that even as you have other systems jumping ahead on slightly different architectures, that's all what we can experiment as well on the L2s. And my expectations is that soon a lot of L2s that we have on top of L1 themselves will be able to outpace on the performance level some of the other L1s, so like all of the other L1s. And then we're already working on interoperability, and we already have a lot of the qualities like decentralization and the censorship resistance that we've promised. And then it's a very powerful ecosystem. And by jumping also with the research to the novelties, to the ideas of talking about space, talking about say DeSci, talking like DeSci was a very big component of the Bangkok DevCon. And now AI here, we spend a lot of time with the builders from Stanford. Cone is organizing a lot of events, and just community is amazing. And you'll see how those agentic solutions are actually built with. Justin Drake was talking about the Ethereum, lowercase Ethereum, and I think that's when in the future you have Ethereum used so broadly, like internet nowadays, that nobody thinks that internet used to be written with capital letter. That Ethereum will be just that layer for delivery of all the economy, of all the allocation of resources. So I think that's the summary.
Right. So you think those are the key competitive advantages: commitment to censorship resistant, decentralization, the pluralism of the community. So what do you two think are the biggest like blind spots in terms of getting to mass adoption? So we have some good things working for us. I would say, like, one thing that I think is very powerful is we have the largest developer community. But what are we not seeing or most blind to is important on the road to mass adoption?
And I think like one of the risks that I always worry about the most is like a disconnect between the parts of the community that care about scale and the parts of the community that care about values and like just like any kind of values in general. Because like there is an actual risk of that happening, right? And like even the incentives sometimes naturally trend towards it, right? Which is like if you're in an application as a business, then your incentive is measured in dollars, and then on the other hand, if you're in the Ethereum Foundation or just like any nonprofit group, then you definitely just have an organic interest in caring about keeping Ethereum censorship resistant, keeping it permissionless, and keeping it open. But there's like definitely a lot of distance between you and the application space, right? And the risk that you get is basically like the world where you have like it's an application ecosystem dominated by like political meme coins on the one end, and then you have like super idealistic fixed governance and fixed society applications that have 47 users on the other side, right? And like but to me both extremes of that are unhealthy, and to me like the thing that we want if we actually want to make a positive impact is for those two sides to be integrated with each other and to like talk with and understand and like respect each other's concerns and like figure out an applications that actually like meet both criteria, right? So like the criteria that I use to get excited about an application is like basically a three-part test, which is one, would I use it, or at least like could I imagine a person I know using it? Two, could I like does it have a business model? And three, is this a sort of thing that I would be very happy to just know exists in the world, even if like I would never get any social or financial upside from it, right? And like passing all three tests at the same time is like a quite non-trivial, right? And there's definitely a lot of applications that like pass 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, but not 3 out of 3. And like yeah, so to me it's like, I mean, blind spot is like even the wrong metaphor, right? Because that's like if it's like a barrier between your eye and a part of the world, whereas here it's more like a barrier between sort of the ecosystems, one of the ecosystems eye and the like another ecosystem's eye, right? And like if those two are not sharing information, then like you can't really tell like what's close and what's far away, and like you still have problems.
Well, what do you think about this, Tomasz?
Yeah, I feel like the Ethereum ecosystem that goes very broadly into many different directions, and with caring about the values, you don't allow yourself to think about Ethereum only like in the form of product, and this is really desired because you want to have that plurality, decentralization of thinking, of doing many things over and over again with different teams. It means that when you finally start merging together all those different paths that people are exploring, and it's a very powerful combination. But very often for longer periods of time, so you'll feel like you don't have a single direction. So maybe bringing together nowadays builders of major applications, builders of major infrastructure components to come and maybe express the vision of the roadmap that points more builders towards its product focus may help, while not forgetting about continuing that approach of just experimenting and building many things in multiple directions at the same time. But the conversation about Ethereum that can be seen like a product could be beneficial for the entire ecosystem, because then you can start talking about a strategy of delivering the value that maybe is appearing somewhere else already to the users, and combining that, synergizing that with things that are already deployed on chain. So I'm not saying of converting the Ethereum entirely to this type of thinking, but just adding it as one additional component of how we talk about Ethereum and how we imagine how we can envision the future, like 1, 2 years, 3 years from now. What would be the roadmap for people that are product oriented?
So just enhancing their visibility, like pulling in these builders into the conversation.
Starting the conversation of like how we would look at Ethereum as a product that we deliver, even as we see Ethereum as a network, as a plurality of concepts. This is one conversation that doesn't happen enough in Ethereum community.
Almost like a world building exercise, like imagining the future.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the things that's been on my mind is, while we're attempting to accelerate, where do we draw the line? So what values are important enough to us that we would not give them up, even if it means moving more slowly or even losing some competitive advantage in the face of fierce competition?
I mean, all the values are important of the ones that we continuously mention about what's Ethereum Foundation's role to maintain the values, so reminding censorship resistance, open source, security, privacy. So the question is, it's not binary where you sacrifice entirety of it or you just keep it and forget about every other aspect of the chain. So it's balancing of what is important when you have to start acting, because community very naturally shared those values. Like people joined because they believed in something and thought like this is the place where I'm building for success, but also for something that will keep me going when I think that like just the success and in a financial sense or in an achievement sense is not enough. So all of this together keeps people around, and it means that the values will be there always in all the products that people construct. So we don't sacrifice all of it. We sacrifice sometimes some of it, because you cannot build all the time with like absolute purity of all those requirements. It would be just probably unusable chain. But you constantly pay attention of where you sacrifice something for how long, where you have to maybe support some other group of builders that are staying behind and are doing something very important for the chain.
And I think one other thing is that's important to keep in mind is like remembering that even if some properties are lost, like actually if you work hard, they can be recovered, right? And one example of this for me is if you look at like privacy protocols on Ethereum, right? If you think about early versions of like even thing like Tornado Cash, for example, right? Like one of the challenges of Ethereum is that it has this rule that the only account that's allowed to initiate a transaction is an EOA. And if you're not an EOA, then you need to have some other EOA that actually has funds to be able to pay for the transaction, right? And the problem is if you're withdrawing from a privacy protocol, then like if you use an EOA that you already have to pay for the withdrawal, then like you're linking your money to your new money and you're basically breaking the whole point, right? And so things like Tornado, the way they worked is they had this like second layer market where there was a fixed list of broadcasters, and through these broadcasters, you would be able to like basically offer them a fee that they would be compensated for within the protocol, and then they would front the money and then they would get paid back, right? And this extra public broadcaster mechanism is like a very significant source of like friction, right? And it's something that is like very easy to lean on to make it more difficult to use privacy protocols. And it's like when I use like Railway today, right? It's like the whole public broadcaster infrastructure and the need to use Waku to talk to public broadcasters and that whole thing is like by far the most brittle piece of the whole infrastructure, right? And so, but at the same time, like we made a huge amount of progress, right? Like early Tornado Cash just had hard-coded IP addresses of a list of broadcasters, right? And then since then, we've moved over to Railway, which actually has an open market of these broadcasters, and you could connect to them through Waku, which is actually it's the new version of Whisper, so it's like actually a decentralized peer-to-peer protocol, right? And so we've actually managed to lose the dependency on like fixed centralized actors, and then you could go even further, right? Like you could build the thing as a mempool on top of your T4337, and then you can talk about like making account abstraction in protocol so that all like this can all be done through Ethereum layer 1 mempools, right? And so like there's progress that's already been made, and then there's further progress that can be made and just can be anticipated as a clear consequence of work that's already very far in progress. And look, we see the same thing even for L2s, right? Look, for L2s, like 2 years ago, if you want to switch from one application using Optimism to another that's using Arbitrum, you'd have to like manually switch networks, right? And today, like Rabbit does that automatically, right? And so, like properties that get lost, even in terms of whether in terms of privacy or in terms of user experience or even in terms of cost, even in terms of security, right? Like we've seen rollups actually starting to really crawl up from stage 0 to stage 1. Those properties can be claimed back, but the process is hard and it takes work, and we have to actually like really come together and put in that work.
So would it be accurate to say there are some advantages that we'd be temporarily willing to give things up for, but we don't want to commit to a permanent structural change?
I'm not even sure if that's true. Like I feel like at least on average, the part where we give up properties is probably mostly already finished, right? Like if we think like properties that we've given up, right, is like layer 2, like transaction, like security guarantees, right? So like a lot of layer 2s are stage 0, and a lot of data is off chain, and so you don't actually have the property that like someone else can come in as a sequencer. Like that's already lost, and that's already on the path to being regained. If we look at layer 2 interoperability, like that was all totally in the toilet 2 years ago, and that's already on a long path to improvement, and there's new and better things coming every few months. If we look at security, like 6 months ago, things were completely in the toilet, and like wallets having fatal bugs in them was just normal. And then if you look today, and there's this growing like core of actually secure things, right? And so things are actually quite good on the contract side, and the next frontier, as we've seen, is actually securing the UI side, right? And so I actually think even now, like we've passed the bottom. Like we're already on the upward trajectory of getting back the properties and like bringing back Ethereum to actually having all of these like aspects that are the reason why we joins the platform. So I think it's something where we just have to like actually stay the course and keep putting in effort to continue the trajectory.
Well, there are also like institutional version of this, right? Where you can like temporarily, and the merge was an example. You do things a bit differently than regular EIP process. And you don't like commit to doing that permanently, right? There's been like another discussion about sort of the benefits of this is like switching gears. But going back to understanding Ethereum's competitive advantage, how do you think about like the benefits of a more modular architecture, like Ethereum, where you have like the layer 2s and they're responsible for doing some things, and something that's hyper optimized, monolithic, like some of the competing approaches. like in terms of the long-term vision, and what the full potential of both culminations are?
Listen, I think that's maybe from the experience of building one of the clients for Ethereum, there is a limit of how far you can go with the monolithic structure. I mean, it definitely has lots of advantages, but obviously you can start making some changes. You can sacrifice some of the values to get more performance, and at some point probably you get to the stage where you still want to enable modular approach. And I felt that whenever you build applications or systems, this is a very natural format where you build something that's monolithic, then you think, oh, now I understand it, so I want to experiment. You split into modular paths, you have different approaches, and then you choose the best approaches and you merge them and you enshrine them into the solution, and it starts feeling like it's one monolithic example again. And then you can go for the experimentation. I think many of the frameworks for engineering work like that. Many of the solutions, I guess, in policymaking and governments work this way, and you consistently move between one and the other. So we started with monolithic Ethereum L1, and now we're on the path of experimenting with modular. But you already see some signals with the solutions like base rollups and maybe some of the interop solutions. The moment you achieve the interop goals that we set for ourselves, the moment when you have the composability with the base rollups, what you want to achieve is a situation where users start feeling like this is single ecosystem with some properties that they can choose between, and then you can feel of it's like it's monolithic. And by the time the builders will start feeling maybe more burdened, but there'll be still more of them, and there'll be some aspects of decentralization between all the different approaches. So I think this is natural. And for the modularity for the L2s, like you have lots of benefits of experimentation. So now it feels sometimes like, oh, there are too many ideas, right? But you explore them and you start picking the winners, and they'll start adjusting as well. Like if some of the approaches ended up being on the wrong path, then they will move and they adopt some of the solutions from their competitors. And they already brought a lot of talented people, community building, and some applications on chain, and they'll start merging into one path again. So I feel generally that path through one and the other is the way to go, and it's beneficial. And it even if temporarily you will see some other like competing chains to show you there is this highly not centralized but highly monolithic version. Most likely you will see them transitioning to that space of experimentation with multiple chains, with interoperability, and so on.
So you're saying the sort of the benefits of modularity in terms of this pluralistic, anti-fragile ecosystem, you expect it to outweigh the extra friction involved.
Yes, in the long term, it for sure will, because it gives you much more of the research power. It brings much more talent that later just focuses on the best solutions and that starts experimenting with the next big step. So those people continuously build something, and yeah, they have different views, but they have ability to select the best views among them. And sure, there'll be always like period of competing ideas, right? And people have to test what survived the test of time. But after that, everyone aligns and you go forward much stronger.
Right. Well, maybe to Vitalik, there's an aspect of it that relates to scaling, where if you wanted to create like the maximally monolithic, maybe like centralized, one server system, would that achieve internet scale? Would that be feasible, even though it might be giving up some properties? And how do you think about what is the maximum level of scale achievable with different approaches?
It all depends on like what level of scale you need for what, right? Because individual centralized designs have proven capable of going up to like 100,000 transactions a second, even higher. Like these are the kinds of levels that mainstream payments and finance systems actually go up to, right? And then, of course, there's the question of like, well, if we're going to have things like micro markets with AIs, then that can plausibly go into the millions of transactions a second. And then at some point, like you actually get to a level where you exceed CPU clock speed and you have to parallelize. And then, of course, you can parallelize within a single data center if you want to, and that gets.
So assuming
Yeah.
we are striving for censorship resistance,
Right, assuming you are,
permissionlessness.
right, exactly. So, like these are the things that decentralization is valuable for, right? It's valuable for like not so much like scale properties, but for resilience properties, right? And there's like there's different levels of those kinds of properties that you can have, right? Because there's a difference between like to what a property existing in theory and a property being realized in reality, right? And like one example that I think is interesting to use to illustrate the difference there is if you look at like some encrypted messaging protocols and like particularly like deniable like a lot of the encrypted messaging protocols like OTR messaging is one of these they aim for a property that's called deniability, right? And that property is like you want to replicate the property of an in-person conversation, which is that if I have an in-person conversation with you, you know what I said, but like you can't go and like credibly pass that information on to a third person, right? And the way that these mechanisms do it is they're structured in such a way that either participant to the conversation has the ability to forge messages coming from the other participant, right? And so from your point of view, if I sent a message to you, technically you know that either I sent it or you forged it, but then you also know that you didn't forge it, and so you know that I sent it, right? But then if Tom decides to intercept that message, then like actually he has no idea whether one of us sent it or whether the other one of us forged the message, right? But then this is a theoretical property, right? But then in practice, well, you can of course like it's like in reality if you just like show someone a screenshot, that's like enough evidence to convince a lot of people, right? And so what the developers of one of these apps this was Ian Goldberg, who I actually managed to cross paths when I was in university for my very brief stint, surprisingly enough. He like in the OTR app he made a point of like actually adding a UI feature for forging conversations, right? And so instead of this deniability property just being like a theoretical cryptographic quirk, it's like no, like there is an actual tool where you can go and make fake screenshots and fake transcripts, and therefore like you can't like if I have a conversation with you, like you can't actually go and credibly pass that along to third parties, right? And so I think there's an equivalence to this in the blockchain space. So, like one very simple example is, like I used it some good, talked about ZK email and a lot of these like ZK wrapper mechanisms, right? And a lot of the time, the core property that you want is basically like you want to have an account where part of the security mechanism of your account actually directly is like what your email, right? And you want like to actually use the email directly. You don't want like the wallet to be an extra intermediary. Like you want the trust model to like just be Gmail instead of being like a 2 of 2 between like Gmail and Ayush, right? But then in practice, for this to work for a user, like you need to have an independent interface. You need to have like some third party interface. I think like it really should be just like a static IPFS site where you can go, and if you registered an account with Wallet A, where with Wallet A you set up your a particular email as your recovery and it use ZK email, even if Wallet A just permanently disappears immediately without warning, you should be able to go to this like independently maintain or it shouldn't even require maintenance, like static independent backup page, and then use that along with your email to be able to like send like do whatever you need to do to do that part of recovering your account, right? And like this, so there's a lot of these off-chain pieces that are like really important, right? And I think the on-chain equivalent, if we want to get back to scale, right, is that you want that like the thing that you don't want is you don't want to accidentally say, oh, well, we have scale and we have censorship resistance, but guess what? The censorship resistance part is not actually scalable, right? And well, one example of this is the security model of L2s, relies on this mass exit mechanism, right? Like if an L2 starts doing something that you don't like, then you as a user are able to withdraw all of your assets from the L2 and bring them into L1. And that whole procedure, like there is a predefined smart contract logic that ensures that if you have correct valid state inside of the L2, you're guaranteed to win, regardless of like what malicious stuff the L2 does internally, right? But here's the problem. Suppose you have an L2, and let's say that L2 is like ink, right? Which, the new Sony L2, which, and like my algorithm for choosing what to shill is I shill stage 1 thing. So if you want me to shill your thing, get the stage 1 as well, right? So that's ink, INK. It's, sorry, it's not the Sony, it's the Kraken thing. The Sony thing is Cineum that I think is also like either stage 1 or well on its way, right? So like imagine, okay, let's take, imagine, you have like Sony gets a layer 2 and it gets to stage 2 even, and it gets to 100 million users, right? And then imagine that then it like there actually is some kind of crazy hack, some situation happens, and then the layer 2 security property starts to matter. Well, according to the rule book, you need to for your assets to be safe, you have to exit within a week, right? And so what this means is, in order for all the users' assets to be safe, you need 100 million users to be able to exit within a week. A week has about 600,000 seconds, and if you take 100 million users and we divide that by 600,000 seconds, that's 167 TPS. How many TPS does the Ethereum L1 have? I said it, it's 15, right? And so today, like that, like as written, that does not work, right? And so, like for that to work as is, like this is why, like for that to happen, we basically would need to actually like increase the L1 gas limit by a factor of 6, or potentially, there are mass exit techniques that you can use to try to like merge many users' transactions, like exits into a single transaction, and you only pay like 1 S-store per user. But like this sort of stuff has to actually be done, right? And like that itself requires some level of performance to exist on the L1 in order for L2s to be censorship resistant, right? So like you have to actually think about all of the different pieces of the system together, and like you have to actually make sure that like not only the happy path is scalable, but also even like some of these like extra paths that have to exist to preserve the properties we care about, like they have to be scalable as well.
I guess I was thinking of things like virtual worlds where like the property rights are protected by something that you don't want to be.
Right. So that one's interesting, right? Because like it depends. Like in a virtual world, I think in general the ratio of actions to assets is very high, right? Which is good, right? It's like a very happy case when the number of things that happen on the inside is like much greater than the number of things that you might theoretically need to export, right? And that's like a very good property you can lean on.
So speaking of modularity versus monolithic architectures, there's the application of this to sort of your theory of how to organize the ecosystem. And the EF has this strategy, long-term strategy of limiting its scope and relying heavily on organizations, values-aligned organizations, like Zero-X Park, No Make Foundation, Nethermind is another example. So why has it been important for EF to do things that way and not just like concentrate competency within the EF and scale that up, which is just like the more traditional way of building competency within an ecosystem, because you don't have to do as much coordination.
The idea that the organization that builds like a product or service, it builds it very similar to the way the organization is structured. So you want all the structure of EF and the organizations that collaborate with Ethereum ecosystem to create a system that will reflect how they structure, how they collaborate. So the Ethereum to be decentralized, you need decentralization on the structure, defining the roadmap and defining how to build it. So any organizations that will be like super efficient, organized, centralized, even if they expand to different regions, they will have some cultural aspects of the dominance of one of the regions. So you want to support the regions to operate a bit more independently, and maybe then you have examples of like economic foundations operating in Argentina. And now you see this is how much, like 3-4 years later, and we have actually a lot of fantastic teams in Argentina. We will have DevConnect, and that region is thriving. And practically Ethereum was extremely important for Argentina, I believe, in the last few years. And hopefully it will be supporting the organizations both at the times when they're failing and at the times when they're thriving. So Ethereum has like this both sides of supporting those that need the systems that protect their privacy, that allow them to be to avoid censorship, but also when all of this is not needed, that they can actually scale and go with the institutions that use Ethereum. And now coming back, so you have Argentina as an example, and then you have lots of local builders that needs to activate communities, and you don't want to have the same thought leaders to be everywhere, but the new faces and new talents to emerge. And then you have expectation that a system survives, that it has this liveness built in, that it has the backup of the systems, backup of the client implementations, but also backup of the like leaders of the ecosystem, that you see people that that got those values right and will be able to drive the ecosystem forward if whoever decides to retire, change, focus on something else. So super important. Ethereum Foundation is there picking up those items that are critical and nobody else would pick up. But whenever there is an opportunity, then Foundation supports the teams to create their own organizations and become independent from EF. And also all the time, I believe EF is scanning for the new arrivals, for who is building and can build something bigger. I think Nethermind obviously is one of those examples. I have this memory, we got a grant of $50,000 in 2018, and without this, we wouldn't grow as an independent organization to build without really having to have this coordination. Like when I mentioned that that we didn't have conversations with EF, really just got the unconditional grant and a bit of support. Sometimes a question of what else do you need from. And not from the leadership of EF. I've seen it always as positive. When we were building Nethermind before, I've seen this. This is exactly what forced us to struggle and to show that we can survive the tough times, but also that we felt that we can shape Ethereum. And I think that many people at Nethermind and many people at other organizations, they feel that on one side they have people to look up to, the leaders of the ecosystem. At the other side, like they feel that they shape it, they drive how the ecosystem will look a few years from now. So that makes Ethereum belong to so many different teams and it's not to anybody.
So that like two different aspects. One is if the EF is doing everything, then you don't feel like anything is an opportunity for you to step up. That's one thing I heard. And the other is just, it sounds like you think any organization has a limited attention span and a limited capacity for knowledge, especially local knowledge. So if you like, create space for a lot of different organizations, you're going to have at the ecosystem level a lot more things going on than what a single, even very competent organization could do. So you would expect that to be more successful strategically long term.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So I'd like to touch on like this moment now, like why now is an important moment. And like if we zoom out to the big picture, we have what seems like a global decline in institutional trust. And we have a almost 180 shift in the regulatory environment to the US. That's like a big change here. And we have AI making very dramatic improvements. So why do you think like this is an important moment for Ethereum? Well, where are the big opportunities given like what's going on?
Yeah, and I think the core of like what Ethereum is about, right, is that it is a technology to let people do things that are fundamentally trivial with centralized technology if you make the assumption that everyone agrees on one particular institution that everyone counts on to be a good custodian, to protect your data, to not like rug your application for a political reason or for a commercial reason. And I think like maybe about 10 to 15 years ago, like the mainstream internet kind of lived in a bit of a dream time in terms of these issues, right? You had things like the big Web2 social media platforms, and I feel like part of the reason why they were able to get very big with relatively little opposition is basically because like to a lot of people they basically did just like look like these sort of credibly neutral gods in the sky, in the sense of this is like a thing and it exists somewhere, and like you don't really actually have to think about like who's actually building the thing and who's running it. And of course like all of those things ended up becoming very real over the next 15 years, right? And the challenge that we see now is like we see very little like consensus trustworthy institutions in general, and that's like often like even within single countries, and definitely especially if you want to make applications that are international and that like go across boundaries of trust worldwide. And then like even those boundaries of trust, like as we've seen, like they can be extremely dynamic, and like two countries that trust each other perfectly one day can suddenly have a very different relationship the next day, right? And so like the infrastructure like Ethereum, I think, is like very well positioned to let us actually build those kinds of services and like actually look at what are the benefits that the various centralized applications, both the ones that we've already seen and the ones that people are looking to build in the next decade, have provided and will provide, and then actually see, well, how can we do these kinds of things, and on top of that, even build things that and do things that people are not willing to do at all today because they're too scared, with the kinds of security and trust properties that infrastructure like Ethereum can actually give us, right? And I think like we're at this inflection point where the core technology to actually make all of those things technically possible is actually there, right? Like this was not true 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, we had amazing, beautiful books, talking about the trust machine and like the blockchain, and it's going to overturn business, and everything will be blockchainified, and it's amazing. But then like the actual like real thing, it just had 13 TPS, and like there wasn't really a way to go above 13 TPS, right? And like now we're finally at that cusp where all these problems are actually being solved, right? And so and we're actually even seeing that reflected in the applications, right? Like I think something like Farcaster like would not be possible 5 years ago. Why? Because even though you need very few on-chain transactions, like you still need an on-chain transaction to register an account. You still need an on-chain transaction to do a recovery. And if it like friggin' takes $54 to do to register an account, if you happen to register your account at the same time as someone launches like $180 million monkey sale or like the wrong kind of CryptoKitty thing, then like Farcaster is not going to survive, right? And even without the monkey and kitty sales, right? Like again, you can do the math, right? Facebook, 3.1 billion users. Imagine if Farcaster gets to 3.1 billion users. Well, and then like let's say you have a blockchain that has 15 TPS. 15 TPS means about 500 million transactions a year, and then it would take you 6 years to just spam the blockchain nonstop with transactions just to actually onboard everyone, right? And like for that reason, all of this stuff was crazy unrealistic 5 years ago, but now the technology actually is there, and I think pretty coincidentally, just at the same time as it's becoming much more clear and visible that like the reason to use these technologies actually is there, and a lot of existing things are breaking, and like we have both the ability and the need to actually create the alternatives.
Tomasz, do you see a connection between kind of social upheavals that we might expect from radical like AI related changes, and then the need for alternatives to institutional based trust?
I feel that first of all, we start seeing that technology more and more convincingly can replace very, very complex institutions, right? If you see what people can build now single-handedly with the AI, with the tooling that is available, if you see the approaches now in multiple countries to explain that you can simplify government significantly, like simplify or disrupt, however you read it politically. This is all the direction of saying, look, that decentralization, the dissipation of institutions and governments is possible. So AI enables everyone to start feeling like, oh, I could single-handedly build a government now. I could single-handedly build a educational institution, university, and design it almost like an open source model. Start building it from the building blocks, and with the AI helping me to address questions, start feeling I no longer need 100,000 or million of people to run this machine. And then when you realize that for all of those solutions that you build, the most natural layer for the resource allocation, for the transactions between them, is blockchain based, is Ethereum, then this makes everything that we've been talking about for a long time very normal. Like you started simplifying over and over again the institutions, governments, all the complexity of our interactions, up to the level where they feel so small that they just feel unrecognizable when you compare them to everything that you build by like single developer build up. Like the smart contract set of smart contracts can become comparably complex as the simplified large institution that used to be a large bank or something like that. So you modularize it, you dissipate it, you just merge it with the network, and then suddenly network is around you delivering all the same functionality. So this is happening now. And yes, it is an inflection point. And yes, everything feels much more normal to build on chain. And more often you'll see that chain integrates with applications, with the solutions that touch the regular interactions between institutions and people, between people and people.
So I think our timer is pretty much up. Do we have time for one last question, or should we? Yeah. So I guess I just wanted what do you guys think about so I mean, Tomasz, I think you know you've come out of the outside and then like into the heart of the ecosystem, and Vitalik has been at the heart for quite some time. I've heard. But so you have this these two perspectives. How do people help with this, with the current challenges, and get to the point where they're helping make a significant impact on this roadmap?
You mean for anyone who joins the ecosystem now, how they get to that stage, or looking more at the journey?
How do you get involved to really get that 10x impact?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it helps a lot if you come with an experience from industry and you just bring something that you would like to merge with the ideas of blockchain. Because I think that my memory is that understanding the paradigm difference between how you build the applications and systems on blockchain versus in a more traditional sense took me probably like a year or a year and a half of reading and having discussions. Sure, I could feel like I had some intuitions, but many of those intuitions ended up being wrong and questioned. So you have so many different paths. You can come from any existing institutions and come on chain and see, oh, so that's how we merge it. And like people from robotics and AI, and we talk to them and we bring them and show them how you can use Ethereum for those spaces, and they start feeling it. Like at the beginning, there was this massive skepticism towards blockchain and AI that disappeared for a moment, and then it appears again, and people start treating it as more natural combination. So this is one way, and the other way is like so many people start by immediately being carried by the values and start building an ecosystem. And sometimes I feel I observe that, and it feels a bit harder. It's like you never learn this world of solving the problems, and you over focus on solving the problems that exist in the ecosystem, and you end up building for each other, the infrastructure for infrastructure. And I think that big way of how we were growing Nethermind in the past was understanding that there is a lot of space of building for others in the ecosystem, and it was harder to build a delivery for the users who would use Ethereum. So I would encourage people to try to always imagine that you build that impact by combining the two worlds.
And Vitalik, if someone wants to make a 10x impact on the research side, what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Because I think a lot of questions on the research side end up like depending on domain knowledge quite a bit. I would say, yeah. I mean, one other approach that you can take is like approach the problem from a completely different vector and like try to solve like research adjacent problems that aren't even like the same things that other people already focus on, right? So, I mean, even but trying to like think. I mean, like I think the beam chain is probably like one good example of this kind of effort, right? Because it basically allowed a lot like of fresh groups of people to be able to come in and basically like even separately from all of the issues that had to do with like thinking about the system today, basically ask the question, what would an ideal consensus layer for Ethereum look like? And then you can come up with that answer. And then from there, you often have a clearer view of like, well, now that you know the answer, like what actually is the correct path to go from here to there. I mean, and I feel like there's similar like possibilities for improvement like that across a lot of different domains, right? So even like cross-layer 2 interoperability is one of those examples. Privacy is another one of those examples. Like I saw, just about a month ago, like one of the or Ethereum community, like privacy fans, PCA Versaccio just said like, hey, I value privacy. Ethereum doesn't value privacy enough, and so let me go and start doing work on making a privacy roadmap for Ethereum, right? And that's like a thing that you can go and do, right? Like you can just take anything that you feel as an insufficient concern and like just start like building momentum around it and start proposing solutions, right? And like privacy was like interesting because in that particular space, like actually the level of these like weird illegible minutiae is like relatively small, right? Because you know what privacy is, you need to know how zero knowledge proofs work, and whereas if you compare it to something like like block building, then there's like years of this built up knowledge of like what kinds of things might like subtly break decentralization for a reason that nobody realizes, or like what things break some other properties someone really cares about, right? So like if you start from these property like aspects that are relatively well encapsulated, then often you can make a lot of progress. I mean, from the like wallet and application side, I mean, I think even like OkContract is a great example of like something similar. On the light client side, Noah Citron was able to just come in and start like actually building a light client for Ethereum. So I mean, there's a lot of these niches that I think you can like look for and discover. Like you can just go in and often give it like 2x or more one of these things with a bunch of dedicated effort just by yourself.
Right. So if you have domain knowledge, it's a permissionless ecosystem. We invite you to come with your crazy ideas and contribute. And thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you.
All right. So just before we disperse, as is tradition, every Ethereum week has a hackathon at the end of it. And this time we have the theme as DAC. So I just wanted to ask you, a really quick intro about DAC and 3 ideas that you think folks could build at the hackathon.
Yeah, so DAC in general is decentralized democratic defensive technology. So technologies that helps like make the world into a place where it's like things are safer and people are protected, and like any kind of risks that come from other technologies get reduced. But all of these things are done in a way that's very like individual sovereignty and community sovereignty focused, without like enshrining one very small set of actors that like gets to decide like what is true and false and good and bad on behalf of everyone. And like the idea behind DAC can be applied in a lot of spheres, right? So there's you can apply it for bio, you can apply it for like computer software, computer hardware, crypto, the infosphere, right? And like basically all of like computer security is theoretically DAC. I mean, as long as it's like computer security by making computers secure, as opposed to like computer security by giving up on protecting people and then only going after hackers after the fact, right? Like that's the thing that's not DAC, right? And like that's the approach that often doesn't solve the problem and often like creates problems, because like once you start adding these extra layers of determining who the good guy and bad guy is, like that's where all the censorship comes in, right? So I think if you want something that's like very relevant to crypto, I think the interesting space to work on is that I think in general, like the one thing that we need is we need to have like more sophisticated like entities or mechanisms that are mediating the interaction between a user and the internet, including the crypto space and including beyond the crypto space, whose interests are actually fully aligned with the user instead of being aligned with like some application, right? Like this can take a lot of form factors, right? Like this can take the form factor of like wallets that are being more sophisticated. This could take the form factor of like browsers that have AI that's incorporated, that's like scanning web pages and interfaces that you see and identifying like even threats to security, information that's false. I mean, potentially everything, some of anything. I mean, it could even include, I mean, like even things that just like generate alternative UIs for particular applications for you. Like, there's a huge number of categories of that type that you create. Like the thing that I use as an example of like a prototype is like the Brave browser, right? It's like a browser, but it's also much more sophisticated. Like it doesn't just like follow HTTP and TLS protocols. Like it also actively protects your privacy. It actively blocks like specific forms of trackers. Like it does a lot to sort of be your defense lawyer for the internet, right? And like you could take that principle and then like multiply that by 1,000.
It's good. Thank you. All right, folks. I'm just going to take a quick plug to talk about the hackathon. All right, folks, if you can just settle down for a bit. We just have one last segment to cover. Folks.
Folks, the event is not over yet. We have one more section left regarding the ETHSF Hackathon.
Folks, we still have another section, so can everybody just either, if you're going to leave, you can head out first. If not, please have a seat. We're going to be talking about the hackathon bounty. So can we clear the stage if you're not presenting? Folks, hi. Hi. Can you clear the stage? We're not done. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Could you clear the stage quickly? We're not done. We still have one more section. Thank you.
All right. Real quick, we want to talk about the hackathon. And yeah, all right. So we at Defolio thought that if we're going to have a lot of food for thought this entire week. So what's better than just listening to these talks is actually actioning and building on it. So we're going to just going to talk about the hackathon real quick. Folks, if you can just settle down. All right. Cool. All right. So the hackathon is going to take place on Defolio, your friendly neighborhood hackathon platform. You can still apply for the hackathon. We have over 1,000 applications already for the hackathon, but applications are still open. You can still apply for the hackathon. Here's how it's going to go down. You have until 15th March to hack and build at the hackathon. On 15th March, 6 p.m. is the project submission deadline. Finalists who will be chosen for the demo day will be announced at the end of the day, and they will be able to pitch to a panel of judges on 16th March. And we have 6 ETH in prizes for the main tracks and $30,000 more by our partners. So the first 3 ETH is going to be split between the top 3 winners, one for the best infra app, one for the best DApp period, and one for the best DAC app. We will also have a quadratic voting, which I'll get to it in a bit. And we'll also have partner tracks. Along the way, helping you out will be our AI mentor, which we just launched last week at ETH Denver. It's continually improving itself, and it has it's a fine-tuned LLM that will help you refine your ideas and just build better. All right, so quadratic voting will kick off as soon as we are done with the project submissions. From 16th to 22nd March, if you submit a project, you will be able to vote for your fellow builders, and each of you get to be a part of the 3 ETH prize pool. If you haven't signed up for the hackathon already, here is the link. It's ETHSF2025.defolio.co. And we will have some of our partners talking about the bounties that they're offering. First up, we have Reactive Network.
Hi, guys. I will only take 2 minutes, so don't worry. I know all of us have been here for 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah. Okay, so before I talk about the bounties, just a little bit about who we are. So we are Reactive Network. Actually, we just launched last week, and we are the first ever fully on-chain, events-driven, cross-chain IFTTT network. So what essentially it means is that when you're trying to build on blockchain, which if you're a developer, you will know, and you try to deploy a smart contract, and then you want them to be reactive on all the fun things that if you're building on Web2 you're used to. You actually have to put the data off chain, and you do it off chain, and then you come back on chain to sort of react to it. But what we did is actually having a full network that enables events to be reactive. So your smart contract, if you build on us, you can easily do it responding to events. You can code additional lines to just say, look out for this, and then therefore I want to actually react to events that's on chain. It enables a lot of other things you can see on screen: automation, cross-chain interoperability, modularity, etc. So we are live. Our testnet has been a very good success. We actually have up to 74 different kind of dApps on our testnet previously. When we launched, actually last week, we already have 3 different dApps that's already launched with us on the reactive mainnet. And this is something that we want developers to really come forward and just try it out, because this is a completely new paradigm shift. You're coding using Solidity, and you want the events to sort of, you want your smart contracts to react to events. It's like, oh, I've never done this before. And for the bounties, perhaps my colleague will just share a little bit about that.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Alex. I'm tech lead at Parsec, and we are building this wonderful reality network. And as for bounties, we have a main track and the side track. Decide where you want to join, and you can see the prices as well on this slide. And we encourage you to also join our dev Telegram group over here, the QR code. So feel free to join. We will answer your questions there, and feel free to submit your applications here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sophia from Self Protocol.
Hi, everyone. Self Protocol is distributing $4,000 in bounties to anyone who integrates Self into their application. So Self lets you verify a user's identity while ensuring that they stay private. So essentially, you can make a ZK proof of the user's passport and then selectively disclose what you want to share with the application. So for example, you can share with an app what country you're from without the app ever actually getting that information, but just getting the proof. You can use it to send a payment to a wallet address and ensure that wallet address belongs to a human who's not on an OFAC sanctioned list. And you can also use it to prove that your users are human, for example, when you're distributing airdrops. So if you have any cool ideas using Self, or you integrate it within your app to prove humanity, you are eligible for this bounty.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we'll have Zeta Chain.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for staying this late, so I can have a chance to introduce our Hackathon bounties. So first of all, I'm Julie from Zeta Chain, and Zeta Chain is the first universal blockchain that designed to connect to every blockchain. We enable seamless interoperability and unite liquidity. So we have a simple but ambitious mission to connect it every single blockchain and create the interoperability for the next billions of users. So basically, so far, we already have native access to a lot of blockchains. So we're EVM compatible, so Ethereum, Base, BNB, Polygon, and non-EVM chains like Solana, Ton, Sway, and most importantly, we can connect it and integrate it with the non-smart contract like Bitcoins. So, so as Zeta Chain, so this time we're setting up 2 bounties. So together we have the 5,000 prize pool across 2 tracks. So first of all, we is to build a universal app. So for this one, mainly your app should be seamlessly interact with multiple blockchains, and also it should be a practical use case to solve a real problem and improve the existing experiences. It has to be user friendly, and also it's optional, but if you guys integrate with any AIs, it would be a big bonus. So example use cases including the cross-chain swap, or the Bitcoin enable smart contract app, or the AI cross-chain analytics tools. And for the second one, we set up the universal DSAC prediction market. So for this one, we also set up for 2,500. For this one track, I set it up because not only because the foundation told me Vitalik will be the judge for this time, and but also more importantly, what we think is like if you use Zeta Chain's infrastructure, we can probably have the first truly global like prediction market. So it can actually breaks down the blockchain silos and improve the information resilience. So for this one, we need you to walk across multiple blockchain and allow users to bet in different assets. Also supports the Sybil resistance via economic mechanism and focuses on DSAC. So for this criteria, I would say for the interoperability, security, privacy, relevance of DSAC, and the usability, UI, UX, and innovation, we'll all count those equally into account. So yeah, join us to build the future of interoperability together. Build big, win big. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So we also have bounties from Base, and we have Tom from Base to talk about it.
Hey guys. Wow. Nice. That was fun. That was a great. This was a great afternoon. This was action packed. I learned a lot. This was cool. Yes, and so just to round it out for us, the Base bounty would love to see a new. Ken from Electric was talking about this. Like, we need more apps. So let's build some apps. Let's build some consumer apps. What's an unmet need out there? Come help solve it for consumers. New innovative criteria, please. And it could be an agent or something. It doesn't necessarily need a UI, but agent kit, on-chain kit, or Base smart wallet. So use one of these, build, get rewarded. I think it's going to be awesome. And if you do, try out the new RPC endpoint, which is on the Base docs for the faster flash blocks on Base Sepolia. Because if you don't connect to the new WebSocket RPC, you won't get the fast blocks yet. So more info on base.org/builders.
Thank you, Tom. Sure. We also have CDP, Coinbase Developer Platform, putting up bounties.
Cool. Thank you. Hey, everyone. My name is Lincoln. I'm the product lead on AgentKit. So I'll be talking a little bit about our bounties. Basically, what we have is very similar to the base prize, but primarily around AgentKit. So after ETH Denver, I'm pretty burnt out about just how much noise there is within the agent space. So I'm really looking to see something real and practical, and using the existing pieces of the stack today instead of building for things that we want that are like 3 years out. There's 4 main areas that I want to see people building in. The first is agentic commerce. So use agents as payment rails to start to interact with the real world or with other services. Generally take advantage of the fact that these autonomous entities now have access to a financial layer, whether that be by connecting it to a debit card that you top up with stablecoins or something else. The possibilities are really endless. The second thing I want to see is experimentation on the pushing the envelope on agent autonomy. So what I mean by this is Truth Terminal came out something like, what was it, 6 months ago? And when it did, it really catalyzed this whole AI agent space. All of the technology that you built that has that created Truth Terminal was 6 to 12 months old. We've come so far, build autonomous agents that go in the world and do things. The third thing is just squishing technologies together, see what works, what doesn't, experiment a little bit. Let's see how far we can go. And lastly, I want to see people push the bounds on decentralization as well and try to come up with new novel architectures to do things that, like I said, it doesn't have to be useful. It just has to be cool. That's what we're looking for this week. Thank you.
Right. So with that, we are at the end of the ceremony. So if you haven't signed up yet, you can sign up on ETHSF2025.devfolio.co. We have over $40,000 in prizes for the hackathon, and we can't wait to see what you build. Right. Thank you, folks.